which is usually very lively, irrespective of what time of day it is very silent, considering that a majority of the leaders who were spread across the state right after the Wind Assembly here in Maharashtra and then were later in Belagavi will now be traveling to Delhi today. So we are expecting a majority of these leaders to be in Delhi. Besides that, the event plan for the next 7 days, the time when we will be having a national mourning, will be put out by the Maharashtra Congress Committee shortly. So we will know officially, the kinds of tribute that the Maharashtra Congress Committee is going to give when it comes to the 14th Prime Minister of the country. Besides that, we saw that leaders across party lines from the state have poured in tributes for the former Prime Minister of the country. We had the likes of Devendra Fadnavis, we had the likes of Ajit Pawar, who are in the government, who talked very highly about the economic reforms being brought in place by Manmohan Singh. We also had Sharad Pawar, who's worked with Manmohan Singh very closely in the decade of 90s and later on as a part of the alliance partner as well, talk about not just the professional experience and the greatness of the man, but also shared the personal anecdotes as well. And it also includes the likes of Aditya Thackeray, who shared a personal bond with Dr. Manmohan Singh. So we had, this was one of the rare occasions after the closely fought elections that took place here in Maharashtra just a few weeks ago, that organizations across ideological beliefs and leaders across party lines came together to give tributes to what they considered is one of the most one of the foremost statesmen that the country has ever seen.
Absolutely. India's most erudite politician as well, one of the heads of India who actually played a role in reforming India in multiple ways. Shreya, Vasudha and Anuj, thank you so much for joining us. In fact, reactions are coming in from across the country, across political parties. Let's listen in to all those who spoke about the lives and times of Dr. Manmohan Singh.
As Prime Minister, I had the privilege personally of hosting prime ministerial visits when I was ambassador in Geneva, later in Brazil, and finally in New York. Again, when I returned to Delhi in between as Secretary Economic Relations. So I must say that Dr. Manmohan Singh's contribution to the country will be remembered in very positive terms. His contribution not only to the economy, but his stewardship at a difficult time, and the loss will be personally felt by all those who came in touch with him. He was a person who gave humility and a sense of professional purpose, an entirely new meaning. And our heartfelt condolences to Gursharan ji and their daughters. And I think that the outpourings of grief which are coming in from different parts of India, these are a testimony to his many qualities of head and heart, of leadership, and he will be long remembered for his contribution.
प्रधानमंत्री पद पर 10 साल जिन्होंने बहुत अच्छा काम किया था, वो डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी एम्स अस्पताल में निधन हो गया है। उससे हमें सभी लोगों को बहुत बड़ा दुख भी हुआ है। जरूर राजनीति में अलग अलग पार्टियों के साथ अलायंस होता है, लेकिन भारत में रहने वाले हम सब लोग ऐसे दुख में शामिल होने की हमारी परंपरा है।
It's a very deeply emotional moment for me. I know he was ill, and I know that he was not active, but I thought he will live for a few more years at least. As I am able to recall the life and work of Dr. Manmohan Singh and the period from 1991 till 2014 will be a golden chapter in the history of India. I worked closely with him for many years. I have not met a person more humble and self-effacing than Dr. Singh. He wore his scholarship lightly and never claimed credit for any of his historic achievements. In fact, the story of India turned after Dr. Manmohan Singh became finance minister. And the present middle class of India was virtually the creation of his policies as finance minister and prime minister. I can recount countless incidents. We had genuine empathy for the poor, and while his policies were liberal and progressive, he never forgot the poor.
I think it's end of an era. Dr. Singh, in his passing, we've lost a man who was a visionary, and he really led the country in a way that was not thought to be possible back in 91. And as Prime Minister, as Finance Minister, as RBI Governor, his contributions to our policy making, our economy has been immense. And I think this generation owes a lot to the work that Dr. Singh did in his life. And he was a true nationalist. I think he kept nation above everything else. And to my mind, two things that stand out are honesty and humility that he'll be remembered most for.
Well, it's a great national loss. I am personally deeply saddened. He was a man of rare combination of intellect and integrity. Working with him as his cabinet minister, earlier in foreign affairs and later as India's economy minister, was a humbling experience, a learning experience. He was, for me, not just a prime minister, he was my guru. He was a teacher. He was a guide. He was a man of few words, but deeply committed to India, its future. A man of compassion, who felt for the poor, who felt for the unempowered Indians. Don't forget that he came to India after the partition as a refugee. He was a self-made man. He talked less but delivered far more, and history will respect. I am aware of his steely resolve, his strength.
All of us are in mourning. He was a great prime minister who served the nation as prime minister, finance minister. He was somebody who was a visionary, who did a great deal for the country. And we are all cancelling the very elaborate programs planned here and rushing back to Delhi, most of us. I remember him as a wonderful man, a good leader, a compassionate individual, a great visionary.
Our Padma Vibhushan, Dr. Manmohan Singh, is no more. We have lost our great leader, the former Prime Minister, the former ACC President, economist, who have been served this country, gave a lot of strength into all sections of the society. He is no more.
It's a huge loss for India. Dr. Manmohan Singh was a reformer who reformed India's economic story as finance minister, as the opposition leader, as well as the Prime Minister of India. He has always thought for India's progress, and he served Mother India well.
डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी के निधन पर बहुत ही अफसोस हुआ। वो मेरे ख्याल में देश के पहले प्रधानमंत्री थे जो इकोनॉमिस्ट, और उनकी छाप पूरी दुनिया में पड़ी। उनके इकोनॉमिक लिबरलाइजेशन के लिए, जिससे हिंदुस्तान का इकोनॉमिक नक्शा ही बदल गया। आज उनके क्रिटिक भी उनकी तारीफ करते हैं।
मनमोहन सिंह जी का देहांत जो हुआ है, भारत को बहुत नुकसान इससे हुआ है। Manmohan Singh ji was one of the great sons of India. He himself proved to the world that how India can grow. He made India almost in the rank of 5 to be the wealthiest nations of the world.
उनके साथ मुझे बहुत काम करने का मौका मिला, बहुत उनके साथ बैठने का, उनके साथ चर्चा करने का. उनकी एक तो जानकारी जबरदस्त थी, चाहे आर्थिक विषय हो चाहे दूसरे विषय हो. दूसरे वो मतलब राजनीति में ईमानदारी क्या होती कोई उनसे सीखे. मैंने उनसे जैसा ईमानदार व्यक्ति नहीं देखा. छोटी छोटी चीज पे भी वो जो है बहुत सावधानी बरतते, मतलब यहाँ तक कि सरकारी खर्चे को भी नहीं करने देते थे.
पूर्व प्रधानमंत्री डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी के निधन की जो खबर है वो बेहद ही दुखद है. देश को एक अपूर्णी क्षति हुई है, कांग्रेस पार्टी का अपूर्णी क्षति हुई है. एक कुशल अर्थशास्त्री के रूप में उन्होंने देश की सेवा की, वित्त मंत्री के रूप में और फिर 10 साल प्रधानमंत्री के रूप में. जो आर्थिक सुधार उन्होंने किए उसका लाभ पूरे देश को हुआ.
डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी, मैं उनके साथ काम कर रहा हूँ और कहीं भी मिले तो नॉर्थ ईस्ट स्टेट का इंचार्ज था जब उस वक्त मैं जाता था, और बढ़िया हमसे ही नहीं बल्कि अपोजिशन से भी बात करता. इवन पार्लियामेंट आउटसाइड हो पार्लियामेंट के अंदर हो सही जवाब देता था.
I heard the news that Manmohan Singh we lost. He's a guiding to the young ministers, and his directions, his valuable sessions we have followed, we have worked under him. He is one of the great economists in this world. It is not in India, the whole world lost a great economist.
From being the governor of the Reserve Bank of India to being the finance minister of India, and of course serving as a 2-term prime minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh's role as a policy maker and a lawmaker cannot be missed. In fact, reactions are coming in from across the world. Let's listen in to all those reactions are coming in. In fact, condolences on the passing of former Indian Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh is coming in. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken called Dr. Manmohan Singh one of the greatest champions of the US-India strategic partnership, noting his important role in advancing the civil nuclear cooperation agreement and driving India's economic growth. Afghanistan's former president Hamid Karzai remembered Dr. Singh as an unwavering ally and friend to the Afghan people, describing his passing as the loss of one of India's most illustrious sons. And Canadian former Prime Minister Stephen Harper has said that Dr. Manmohan Singh had exceptional intelligence, integrity and wisdom, and he expressed condolences to Dr. Singh's family and to the people of India. A short break and then we return.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
And I swipe it there, my own rewards, मैं everywhere, कहीं से भी करूँ collect, spend करूँ direct.
Download any single ID partner app, link your card and earn reward with top brand.
Get it free with single ID.
We are able to maintain the democratic fabric and the democratic system.
I want to do something that can make a difference.
लगातार जनता की आवाज को सरकार तक पहुंचाने का काम मैं करता हूं.
I was a student up until very recently. I really want to work and do something for my people because they have given me this opportunity. They have elected me.
सोचा नहीं था कि राज्यसभा सांसद बनूंगी.
Mahakumbh, a festival of faith, the world's biggest spiritual festival, the divine dip at the spiritual Sangam, a sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
NDTV shines with 38 prestigious wins at the News Television Awards 2024. Powerful journalism to cutting-edge digital innovation, production excellence to regional leadership. NDTV sets the benchmark. 38 awards, each a testament to your trust in NDTV. NDTV stands for trust.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
Both the left and the right are remembering the contribution of former Indian Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, someone who brought economic reforms and privatization to what was seen as state-dominated license Raj in India before 1991. A huge contribution to the middle class. He was the creator of the middle class. That's how Dr. Manmohan Singh's legacy will be remembered, and perhaps, as he famously said, history will remember him kindly. We are being joined by Vasudha and Shreya. Shreya is joining us from outside the residence of Dr. Manmohan Singh, and Vasudha is at the Congress office where his mortal remains are likely to be brought in around 12 noon. Vasudha, coming to you first. Reactions are coming in from across party lines, and in politics, as we say, there are differences which play out during elections, but when it comes to a moment of this nature, it's somber, and that is the reason why leaders, Prime Minister Modi and others, are calling him a distinguished leader whose contribution to Indian politics and Indian policy will be remembered immensely.
That's right, Maria. And, as political reporters, we often know that politics is just the art of showing that things can be made possible. And Manmohan Singh was exactly that, because in many ways he does leave an imprint on several aspects of governance. And my favorite part of that is, of course, be it right to information or right to education. Also, to give credit, it was Vajpayee government that did come out with this idea of freedom to information. It was the Manmohan Singh government that finally drafted the rules and got the bill passed, and also getting that approval from the nuclear suppliers group, and showing that India can be a responsible nuclear, nuclear weapon state, and also getting that, clinching that landmark deal with the United States of America and strengthening that kind of relations with, with the United States of America at a time when, it was a unipolar world. I think that was also a very important, part of his legacy, which is why Dr. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, also said that, apart from the economic legacy that he leaves behind, he also in some ways had an enduring impact on the way foreign policy of the country was directed at, and also on several aspects of governance. I come to you from the Congress office. Congress, a party that he served his entire life. He's been a parliamentarian for 33 years. And if you look at Prime Minister Narendra Modi's tribute to him, he also talks about, the kind of parliamentarian he was. Somebody, we will always remember the day he came to vote, he was sitting in a wheelchair. He was clearly unwell, but, he had a sense of duty and commitment. And somebody who always took the Rajya Sabha route. There was only one time he fought Lok Sabha elections, and that was in 1999 from South Delhi. And he lost, and after that he always sort of chose the Rajya Sabha route, and he was, a Rajya Sabha member not just from Assam but also in the last term from Rajasthan. Someone who was cerebral, someone who was, who also liked being called a teacher, because that's what I was reading about in his interview. Someone who understood that, he has certain strengths but also certain weaknesses, and somebody who has spent, a lot of time of his life in several, positions in public life, be it, as the governor of RPI, or for that matter, the deputy chairperson of Planning Commission, heading the University Grants Commission, and, advisor on foreign trade, or for that matter, advisor to Prime Minister, Finance Minister, and several other positions. He served as a finance minister, he served as the RBI governor from 82 to 85 under Pranab Mukherjee was the finance minister, and then Pranab Mukherjee served as finance minister when he was the prime minister. So clearly lots of musical chairs there, but someone who maintained, cordial relations with everybody, someone who was cerebral, someone who was intelligent, someone who was known for his personal integrity, even when his second term was marred by corruption allegations and scandals. Someone who rose above all these differences. I think that is what really he should be credited for. I spoke to Congress leaders. They are all in Belagavi. Many of them are hoping to get back. Mallikarjun Kharge, Rahul Gandhi. The Gandhis are already back. In fact, Priyanka Gandhi was one of the first to reach the hospital yesterday at AIIMS. Today we can expect the body to come here around noon. There is a lot of security arrangements that have been made here. I'm told that one of his daughters could also be arriving soon, which is why the wait is for. And then we will get to know about the final rites. But of course, we are waiting for the body to arrive at the Congress office, and for the leaders also to, to pay the man who richly deserves all the tributes that he gets today from all sides of the spectrum, like you said, because clearly he was, like Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister also said, one of the most distinguished leaders of the country who leaves an enduring legacy imprint on India's governance, foreign policy and economic policies.
Absolutely, Vasudha, and it's pouring in Delhi. Perhaps a nation is mourning and the sky is weeping as well. Shri, I'm going to come to you in just a bit, because we are being joined by Neerja Chaudhary, the author of a book which has a chapter on the functioning of Dr. Manmohan Singh as well. Neerja, among his many contributions would be his welfare push, right to education, and also about National Employment Rural Guarantee Program. The enactment of that has been seen as a landmark and transformational as well. In your chapter on Dr. Manmohan Singh, you talk about his mild manners and also about his scholarly temperament. What do you think will be the most endearing and long-lasting contribution, according to you, of Dr. Manmohan Singh's legacy?
I think, when you look at him, and what are people remembering him for, and as they pay their tributes, it's very interesting that he was a gentleman politician, that he was mild-mannered, that he was humble, that he didn't push himself forward. And those are the things that, for which he was criticized during his lifetime for being a weak prime minister. Those are the things, ironically, that the nation is remembering him for most of all. Courteous, absolutely. When I went to present my book to him, he said it was lying there, and he said, I've already read it. And what he liked the most about it, he said, was the heading of the chapter, which said, an underrated prime minister who triumphed. So he felt somewhere that had vindicated him. And yes, of course, everybody's talked about the mark on, opening up of the economy with Narasimha Rao that he did in 1991 when he became finance minister under Narasimha Rao, and also foreign policy, a strategic relationship with the US, where he showed a steely side to him. was seeing through the Indo-US civil nuclear deal. And that he pursued for 39 long months, despite opposition from within the party. Sonia Gandhi initially wasn't for it. And of course, the left parties said we will withdraw support, which they did finally. And Dr. Manmohan Singh, who was considered a novice politically, we suddenly found the killer instinct in him, and he lined up the support of the Samajwadi Party to back him and the Congress Party, which they did, and his government survived. And the Samajwadi Party, he used Amar Singh. So he showed a side to him which few thought existed. And that deal went through. And of course, he had a rare rapport with George Bush, the US president, who used to say to bureaucrats, look after him. He's my friend. And so the mild-manneredness and, the erudite part of Manmohan Singh not pushing himself forward was also what got George Bush to like him so much. That's what was said. So Dr. Manmohan Singh today, when I saw him last year, the thing that was troubling him the most was the bitter relationship that was developing between the ruling side and the opposition. It was something that he was very concerned about. And today that he is going to be getting a state funeral and national mourning for 7 days, with tributes pouring in from all parties, including the BJP that he was critical of and they were critical of him. That is, I think, in the fitness of things. And I also feel his life is a testimonial for our democracy, to rise from very, very, very humble beginnings. Where he used to study by a kerosene lamp and to become what he did, reach the pinnacle of power, is a tribute also to our democracy.
Absolutely. Nirja, of course, someone who left a strong imprint on India's economic policy, but also in terms of his character, as is being defined by multiple leaders, from Mamata Banerjee to Sharad Pawar to M.K. Stalin, who worked with him very, very closely during the UPA years. He's being called as someone who held rare qualities. So when you had that interaction with him, when you went to present your book, How Prime Ministers Decide, he said he has read it already. How long was that interaction? And when he said during the course of that press conference that history would be kinder to him, today when we remember the legacy, the long legacy of Dr. Manmohan Singh, we are all talking about his contribution. So certainly we can say that history will be kinder to him.
Yeah, I think that is true. History will most likely be kinder to him. But he would have been very interested to see all this outpouring today, people speaking the way they are about him and the things that they valued about him. Of course, you remember 1999, he lost, the only Lok Sabha election that he contested was from Delhi and South Delhi. And he lost that. And of course, there was internal sabotage from the party, it was said. But then after that, he never ventured into fighting an election. So he came through the Rajya Sabha route. But Dr. Manmohan Singh really, as they said, the politician amongst economists and economist among politicians. So he will be remembered for many, many things. Foreign policy, economic policy, but above all, a great son of India.
Absolutely, and immense wisdom, integrity. As journalists who interacted with Dr. Manmohan Singh, you would always leave his company with some thought about either politics or policy or economy. So your final thoughts as we remember him today. He's being called as a mentor and guide. He's being called as someone who, who reset, who played that role of that strategic reset with the West, who actually put India firmly on the global map. So his diplomatic contribution, his contribution in the space of economy, and of course in the space of welfareism, the right to information, the right to education, these are seen as landmark, Neerja. And of course, we haven't really talked much about the National Rural Employment Guarantee Program, which has ensured that employment, so critical employment for the rural India.
And this rights-based approach, right to food also, right to education, it is not that he was fully convinced always, because he would worry about where the money would come from. But it was done under his stewardship. All these programs were done under his stewardship. And that, of course, gave the party huge advantage in the 2009 elections, because apart from right to food, other things had been passed. So that part of him, combined with, the growth trajectory of the country in his first term, which was very, very good, gave him, I think he had the victory that the party had in 2009. Some of it was attributed also to Dr. Manmohan Singh leadership at that time. I would say, what are the things, when I went to see him and I said, you should give an interview, he talked of some things off the record. For instance, I asked him that why is it that you did not resign when Rahul Gandhi tore up that ordinance publicly? And so he didn't want to talk about it, he didn't want to talk about anything negative or controversial that may harm the party. But he said this, he said, afterwards Rahul Gandhi came and apologized to me. So till the end, very, very cautious, flexible man. But it was interesting that even in the twilight of his life, when he was not going to come back to active politics and had retired, that still he didn't want to do anything that would hurt the Congress party.
Neerja Chaudhary, I appreciate your time. We are shifting focus now to Shreya, who's joining us from outside Dr. Manmohan Singh's official residence, that is 3 Motilal Nehru Marg, and that's where his 3 daughters and the former Prime Minister's wife is present. Born in 1932 in a very poor family, Dr. Manmohan Singh studied by candlelight, but he went on to win a place at the Cambridge University and also at Oxford University. So certainly when it came to his education, he emphasized on that, and that's the reason why this rights-based education policy, which came through the right to education, was so monumental in shaping the lives and future of several young Indians from the poor family background. We are coming to you now, Shreya. When are the family members, what about Sonia Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi? They were the first ones to arrive to be with the family last evening at AIIMS. Where are they there already, or are they expected to arrive a little late?
Well, of course, talking about the demise of India's most eminent statesman and scholar, ex-Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, his mortal remains continue to be here at his residence. He has been living here for the last 10 years, and this is where he lost his consciousness last night, and he was immediately brought to AIIMS Delhi. But of course, the hospital couldn't revive him, and he was declared dead late at night. He was 92 years old. He was going through age-related issues, medical conditions, and he is survived by his wife and 3 of his daughters who are living here. And of course, later in the day, we will see senior leaders, Congress leaders, also the cabinet ministers arriving here, performing the final rites with full state honors of Dr. Manmohan Singh, who has, of course, been one of the most secured, humble, a man of quiet dignity, and a man who has left behind a huge legacy in terms of the political, social and economic policies, as you were mentioning, Maria. He was a visionary in the truest sense. He came up with different initiatives which revolutionized the country forever. It reshaped the nation's destiny, be it the RTI, RT, Manrega, Aadhaar. All these initiatives were taken during his tenure, and he will always be remembered for the positive contributions that he did. He was a great technocrat. He was an economist turned politician, often described as a reluctant politician, an accidental politician. But as you can see, how people are paying homage to him, across party lines. It just goes on to show the kind of life he's led. He has inspired the politicians and people from all fields. And last night we saw several leaders, including Rahul Gandhi, Mallikarjun Kharge, Priyanka Gandhi. They all arrived at his residence here in AIIMS Delhi, Motilal Nehru Road, where he had been living for the last 10 years. And today also, very soon, we will be seeing leaders arriving here, paying homage to India's 14th Prime Minister, Mr. Manmohan Singh.
Okay, Shreya, we are going to come to you in just a minute. A quick break, and then we return.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital, Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Mahakumbh, a festival of faith, the world's biggest spiritual festival, the divine dip at the spiritual Sangam, a sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
A very warm welcome to the first edition of the NDTV Emerging Business Conclave 2024.
MSME विभाग एक महत्वपूर्ण विभाग है.
We have to think about what is brand India. India will always stand for democracy. We will always be one of the largest investors in the world.
It is also very, very important that these MSMEs grow.
We are seeing that women are coming up in many, many other sectors apart from the traditional sectors.
2024, the year that was, when India welcomed Ram. When India decided,
मैं नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी,
when Jammu and Kashmir turned a historic leaf,
as Chief Minister for the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir,
when India mourned, when India celebrated,
Former Prime Minister of India, who opened India to the world as country's finance minister, who helmed the India-US nuclear deal, under whose tenure several landmark legislations, from the right to education to right to information, was passed, who served as the governor of the Reserve Bank of India, who held the top office of the Prime Minister for 2 terms, Dr. Manmohan Singh, passed away at the age of 92. The Government of India has announced a 7-day national mourning. Flags across government offices and at the Rashtrapati Bhavan are at half-mast. That remains out of focus. Here this morning, the headlines. Former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh passed away at 92. State funeral to be accorded to the former Prime Minister. cabinet will be meeting at 11 a.m. All government programs scheduled today are cancelled. National mourning of 7 days declared. Political leaders across party lines mourn Dr. Manmohan Singh's demise. Prime Minister Modi says that he made extensive efforts to improvise lives. Rahul Gandhi says he lost a mentor and guide. World leaders pay tribute to Dr. Manmohan Singh. Former Canadian Prime Minister Harper says Manmohan Singh had exceptional intelligence. Team India will wear black armbands to mourn and as their tribute to Dr. Manmohan Singh. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and discussed current regional and global developments. Russia warns against hypothesis in Azerbaijan Airlines crash. Reports suggest that it was a Russian defense missile behind Kazakh airplane crash. The mild-mannered and soft-spoken economist, Prime Minister of India, fell unconscious at his home and was declared dead at 9:51 p.m. at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Condolences are pouring in from across the world and across party lines here in India. The stalwarts and titans of Indian industry are also expressing their tributes and their thoughts on the role of Dr. Manmohan Singh. A 7-day national mourning has been announced. All government programs are cancelled. Union Cabinet will be meeting at 11 a.m. Dr. Manmohan Singh's mortal remains will be brought to the Congress office in some time. Here's a tribute to Dr. Manmohan Singh, his life and times.
I honestly believe that history will be kinder to me than the contemporary media or for that matter, the opposition parties in parliament.
Famous words from Dr. Manmohan Singh at the last major press interaction in 2014 before the general elections. The man who served as Prime Minister for 10 years had a huge impact on modern India. Born in Gah, now in Pakistan, Dr. Singh's family migrated to India during partition in 1947. After obtaining his doctorate in economics from Oxford, Dr. Singh first worked for the United Nations in the 1960s. In the 1970s, he began a long career in the bureaucracy, including as RBI Governor, Chief Economic Advisor, and Vice Chairman of the Planning Commission. But his first big moment came during the economic crisis of 1991, when he served as the finance minister under Prime Minister Narasimha Rao. Dr. Singh carried out the most comprehensive reforms India has seen by opening up the economy through liberalization. In 2004, the Congress emerged as the single largest party in a shock general election that saw the unexpected defeat of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. There was a clamor for Sonia Gandhi to take over as Prime Minister of a Congress-led coalition, but Mrs. Gandhi struggled with the decision for days. A week later, she surprised everyone when she announced that Dr. Manmohan Singh would be her choice for Prime Minister.
I'm very happy. I think our country will be safe in Dr. Manmohan Singh's hands.
And so the UPA was born, with coalition partners from the Congress as disparate as the DMK from Tamil Nadu to the CPI and the CPM, with whom the Prime Minister would share a rocky relationship. That coalition was first tested after the India-US nuclear deal of 2005. It was a landmark agreement made by Dr. Singh and then US President George W. Bush. India, which has faced international pressure to sign the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, or the NPT, after its nuclear tests in 1974 and 1998, was now on its way towards joining the global nuclear club.
Civilian nuclear energy has a greater role in meeting global energy demands.
His first term was also marked with the passage of key laws, like the Right to Information, Rural Health Mission, and Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. But there was also whispers about who was really in charge. Sonia Gandhi had taken over head of the NAC, a body called the National Advisory Council, and critics said she was the one actually calling the shots. In his first term, diplomatic ties with the United States were strengthened, as were ties with Europe, Japan, and Iran. Dr. Singh got on famously with George W. Bush and Barack Obama. He was well respected on the global stage. Ties with Pakistan also improved for some years. Back-channel talks almost paved the way for movement forward on Kashmir. The famous Manmohan Musharraf four-step formula, which would have made boundaries irrelevant and enabled more contact across the LOC. However, the 26/11 Mumbai attacks in 2008 completely changed the trajectory. The UPA came back with a bigger mandate, with Dr. Manmohan Singh advertised as the Congress's face for Prime Minister. India had given Dr. Singh a big thumbs up, but the second term was nothing like the first. Allegations surfaced of large-scale corruption in the Commonwealth Games, on coal block allocations, and most famously, the 2G scam, which a court years later has upheld never happened. The appeals are pending. The opposition accused Dr. Singh of not speaking up, of being a mute spectator to rampant corruption.
और आज उन्हें इस गंभीर विषय पर प्रधानमंत्री सदन में आकर एक वक्तव्य करें।
The Nirbhaya gang rape of December 2012, the poor handling of the protests and the public anger was another low point for Dr. Singh's prime ministership.
My opinion on the ordinance is that it should be torn up and thrown away.
Dr. Singh may not have been the most eloquent prime minister, but he had his moments, like this parliament debate with Sushma Swaraj in 2013, where both invoked poetry to make the point. One of the most memorable exchanges on the floor of the House.
हमको है उनसे वफा की उम्मीद जो जानते नहीं वफा क्या।
कुछ तो मजबूरियां रही होंगी, यूं ही कोई बेवफा नहीं होता।
After Narendra Modi's big win in 2014, Dr. Manmohan Singh played the role of the opposition's conscience keeper, cautioning the government on the economy, demonetization, and other crucial issues.
Scheme of monetization, the way it has been implemented, will hurt agricultural growth in our country, will hurt small industry, will hurt all those people who are in the informal sectors of the economy.
As his health deteriorated, Dr. Singh was rarely seen in public. His last political appearance was during a no-trust vote in Rajya Sabha in 2023, when he was brought in on a wheelchair. Manmohan Singh was never a typical politician for a man who was often called an accidental prime minister. Dr. Singh was at the helm for 10 long years, a tenure that left a lasting impact.
And joining us now is Ashwini Kumar, former Union Minister who worked with Dr. Manmohan Singh. We have Lakshmi Puri, former UN Assistant Secretary and also former Ambassador of India, an author as well. We have Dr. Ramakant Pandey, who performed a successful complex REDO bypass surgery on Dr. Singh in January of 2009. Ambassador Puri, I'm going to come to you first. As someone who has worked in the space of foreign policy, what do you think was the biggest foreign policy contribution of Dr. Manmohan Singh, according to you?
Well, as a scholar statesman, former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh ji had also a very important contribution to make, not only on foreign policy, but to multilateralism, to the emergence of the global South. He was with UNCTAD in its inceptional phase, and later as South Commission chair, he played a very, very important role in the emergence of the global South, in South-South cooperation, and also promoting the integration and advocating for the integration of the global South into the world economy, in trade, investment, in every area. So that is one area that has not been acknowledged as much, but I have been witness to it. I have interacted with him in that area, and that is something that also must be seen as his lasting contribution. The other aspect, of course, is economic diplomacy. In the 1990s, and I was in the Ministry of External Affairs very much on this desk, and we were making a transition into economic diplomacy, giving importance to, he was finance minister, but he had a major impact on how our foreign policy was transformed from one that was focused on political security issues into that was also opening up to the economic aspects of our foreign policy. India as an economic power, how to project that, how to achieve that, and that was a major transformation. The third aspect that, again, I was very much engaged with him on was the Look East policy, the historic Look East policy, which has now, under Prime Minister Modi, since 2014, become the Act East policy. And, of course, last but not least, the US-India relations and how he was a champion. And he had the courage, despite all the contestations of those times, particularly from coalition partners, the left parties, but also within the Congress, that old hesitation about striking a truly necessary strategic partnership, an essential strategic partnership with the US, that was broken thanks to him. And I think that would be, and that laid the foundation for what has now become, under Prime Minister Modi, which has become a comprehensive strategic partnership covering every area. And, sky is even the sky is not the limit kind of partnership that has emerged. But also, of course, the civilian nuclear deal was a major breakthrough. And it took India out of the nuclear isolation and the apartheid that was there. It was also, it had then got access to the latest technologies, and it had an impact beyond the nuclear area for Indian industry, economy, access to technology, and also the Indo-US relations and India's relations with the West.
He's often remembered as someone who had a quiet humility. Ashwini Kumar, as a former law minister, you worked with the former Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh. He had understated, or should I say, mild manners. There was sheer brilliance, it is often said, in in his persona, and also at the same time, non-threatening persona. In personal equations, what was it like working with Dr. Manmohan Singh?
Well, I've always said that one of my great privileges and blessings in life has been that I was touched by his nobility, in the sense that every time I met him, I came back humbler, and I came back with a deepened respect for a man who was my mentor, who was my inspiration. All I can tell you today is that he was an exceptional man in every sense of the term. He was exceptional for his integrity. He was exceptional for his brilliance, for his wisdom, for his intelligence, but above all, he was exceptional for his finer graces and humanity. Even when he was the Prime Minister, and I would go to see him in his Parliament House office, either as a minister or as a member of Parliament, he would insist on coming to see me off at the door. At one point of time, after my repeated entreaties to him failed, when I told him that as Prime Minister, he should not bother at all, I literally had to hold his hand to ask him not to walk me to the door. This was Dr. Manmohan Singh, which some of us know of. And I think the imprint of his nobility has been felt by not only me, but all those who worked with him. People have mistaken his humility and his magnanimity for weakness. This is the most mistaken view of the man who was exceptional in every sense of the term. His steely resolve was evident when he staked the office of the Prime Minister to ensure that we had the Indo-US civil nuclear deal, because he felt that it was in the best interest of the nation. I remember him saying that no one is worth the chair of the Prime Minister if he or she cannot keep national interest above the chair. He always reminded us that what was important was to do what is right by one's conscience. And he never in the several years of my association with him, both when he was leader of the opposition in the Rajya Sabha, and I had the privilege and honor of working with him, and also when he was Prime Minister, never once did he suggest compromise with principles. The Dr. Manmohan Singh, whom the world appreciates today, was a guiding star for the nation, indeed, but also for the entire world. It was not for nothing that world leaders like President Obama, Angela Merkel, and others, the Canadian former Prime Minister, who took his counsel on key international issues. Dr. Manmohan Singh's contribution cannot be described in a few minutes, but within hours of his passing, his prophecy, Maria, has come true. You will recall his famous words that history would judge him more kindly. And I'm glad to see that history is judging him more kindly, seeing the kind of tributes that have been offered to him from across the political spectrum, cutting across the political divides and from across the world.
Absolutely, Ashwini Kumar, continue to be with us. I would request all the guests to be with us. We are cutting across to Vasudha, who's joining us live from outside the Congress office. We also have Shreya and Anuj getting details from what's happening at various locations as as a nation mourns the death of an astute economic thinker who has left behind a lasting legacy. Vasudha, what are you picking up? You tell us, what's the preparation at the Congress headquarters? When are his mortal remains likely to be brought there?
Maria, what I understand is that his mortal remains remain at his residence. He passed away last night after age-related health conditions. He fell unconscious, and of course the nation has been mourning since then. We are at the Congress office. This is a party that he was extremely loyal to, and he was an MP for over 3 decades. And what I understand is that his body could arrive only tomorrow. Today, his body will be kept at his residence, is what we understand. The family is waiting for one of his daughters to arrive in India, which is going to happen towards tonight is what we understand. So there is a certain sense of uncertainty about a lot of Congress leaders because they're also caught in Belagavi. Many of them are still there. They're all coming back. And remember, that was also a landmark meeting that they were set to have, that the party was set to have, because it also in some ways commemorated the first meeting, the CWC meeting, the only meeting that Mahatma Gandhi presided over. So we are waiting, for more workers and leaders to arrive. But as of now, there's a lot of security preparations there. But leaders and workers are yet to arrive. And today is also a day when we will see a lot of tributes, and we've already seen that flowing from all sides of political spectrum. And we were also listening to our guests, and there is a certain sense that this is a man who deserves all the kind of tributes that are flowing in for him, because he leaves an imprint not just in various aspects of India's governance, be it right to information, right to education, rural health mission, rural employment guarantee scheme, for that matter, even the unique identification authority that generates Aadhaar, which has become a national identity of sorts. Somebody who believed that development needs to have a human face to it, and also, like Ambassador Lakshmi Puri said, that he does leave an imprint when it comes to foreign policy of India, the economy, the policies that are directed towards the economy of the country. Well, all his liberal reforms were probably not really appreciated in the 90s because the Congress could not come back to par with that kind of majority, with that kind of numbers in 1996. But clearly they gave a certain trajectory to the country's economy, which we are grateful to him now. And today is a day to remember all of that, including his contribution to, clinching that landmark nuclear deal with the United States of America, and also strengthening our relationship with countries like the US, specifically at a time when it was a unipolar world, and clearly these bilateral ties were even more difficult and challenging then. So clearly today is a day to remember all of that. And weather-wise, it's monsoon fury plus plus a lot of cold here. So clearly nature also trying its best to make this day memorable, so that there is a certain sense of remarkable memory attached to this final goodbye to Manmohan Singh.
Yes, it's a day of final goodbye to Dr. Manmohan Singh, a technocrat, an economist, and India's former Prime Minister who served India for 2 terms. His legacy is far and wide, from his personal charisma to his contribution to India's economic reforms to also social reforms in terms of right to education in particular. Shreya, we are told that the security around Dr. Manmohan Singh's residence has been increased. Most leaders, from Prime Minister Modi to other senior leaders of the BJP and senior ministers are expected to pay their tributes and the visit to Dr. Manmohan Singh today at his home.
That's right. I'm right outside the residence of the man who steered India into its 21st century. Here you can see the visuals of the police barricading this entire area and intensifying the security levels right outside the residence where Dr. Manmohan Singh lived for the last 10 years. It also makes me wonder the origin of Dr. Manmohan Singh. He was born in 1932 in an undivided village in Punjab, and after he finished school, he was caught between partition riots, and then of course he went to Punjab University. From there he got a scholarship to go to Cambridge, and after Cambridge he continued facing economic hardships, and he also wrote to his friend for monetary help, and since then there had been no looking back. He grew into a bright mind, an educationist, a reformist, and a transformational leader. And it's important to remember the background, the humble background of Dr. Manmohan Singh, because it was through his mere educational qualifications that he rose through the ranks as an economist turned politician. And all these insights, interesting anecdotes are there in the book written by his own daughter, the biography of Dr. Manmohan Singh and his wife. It's called Strictly Personal. Our viewers can definitely check it out. Right now, of course, we know that in the national mourning period has been declared because of the demise of this of Dr. Manmohan Singh, and the national flag is being flown at half-mast during the state mourning in several areas, including in the Congress headquarters. The national mourning period will continue for the next 7 days. Today, in fact, all the government programs have been cancelled, and soon, within a couple of hours, we will see the cabinet ministers arriving here at the residence of Dr. Manmohan Singh. This is where his mortal remains are kept, and this is where he lived for the last 10 years. And within a couple of hours, we will see senior leaders arriving here and performing the final rites to bid the final farewell to the maker of modern India, Dr. Manmohan Singh.
Shreya, Vasudha and Anuj continue to be with us. I'm going to go to the guests who are joining us. Dr. Handa and Ambassador Puri are with us as well. Dr. Handa, as someone who interacted with Dr. Manmohan Singh during the course of that surgery that you performed on him, what was it like? What was his thoughts when he was undergoing that crucial surgery?
I had a great experience. For me, he was a great human being, great humble person and patriot. I completed his heart surgery. It was almost 10, 11 hours, and the night when you take out the first breathing pipe when the person can speak, the first word he asked me, how is my country and how is Kashmir? I said, sir, he didn't ask anything about your surgery. He said, I knew that you people do a good job to it. I'm not worried about, I'm more worried about my country. And he was that kind of a patriot. And as a patient, I can look at, as a doctor, the ideal patient that I can think of, because he never asked us a question about surgery. Anything I asked him, why don't you ask any question? He said, no, I know that will do a good job. Why should I ask you any question? And most of the patients after surgery complain of chest pain and other. He never even once asked, complain about his pain. That shows his resolve as a strong human being. And every time we'll go to see him post-surgery, you'll always see that he'll come to the gate and see us up. All my four doctors, myself, Dr. Srinath Reddy, Dr. Nitish Nayak, Dr. Ambus, he'll always say, sir, we are very embarrassed, please don't come. He'll always say, no, you are the ones who held my heart and treated me. It is minimum I can do is I can come and see you. So far as a doctor, he was an ideal patient, great human being, and I can look at a great patriot. I've never seen a patient, the first thing they usually ask about themselves. He never asked once during treatment about himself. Always he'll inquire what is happening to my country, what happened to Kashmir. These are his questions. So,
and Dr. Panna, you treated him in 2009. That was the year when he was the Prime Minister. So his first thoughts were, how is India doing? Not as much as how was he doing and how was his heart doing after that surgery?
Yeah, he never asked me once what kind of surgery you did. I said, sorry, why didn't you ask? He said, no, I knew that you guys will do a good job. So my more concern is how is my country and how is Kashmir? So these are the first two questions he's uttered when you get the breathing pipe out. At a personal level, I know how, he has a very strong integrity, and many people probably don't know. He was a very steely reserve. If you say something, means he'll do that. You cannot change his mind.
Ambassador Puri, it's inevitable but true that there are many tributes and life sketches which are coming in of Dr. Manmohan Singh. There was that moment as well of Indo-US nuclear deal where he pursued relentlessly for 39 long months. Several authors have, talked about his steely resolve as well. As someone who observed him, what made Dr. Manmohan Singh pursue that with such resolve?
I think, as has been said, he was convinced that this, in the post-Cold War era, when everybody was declaring the end of history and the triumph of the West, it was very important that India position itself in the new world order as a strategic partner of the US. So that was one. The other reason why he was convinced that he should go ahead with it, irrespective of all the opposition within and, of course, without, because there were, we had to do a lot of convincing of our partners, the other Western partners who were reluctant. So he had to overcome all of that. He was doing that also to ensure that that there are guardrails around our own nuclear program and that we can go forward in developing our nuclear program. And as I mentioned to you earlier, this was also about access to dual-use technologies, which were held back from us because of, as I told you, about there was a kind of nuclear technology related or dual-use technology related apartheid, and we were out of it. So all of those reasons for the economy, for our industry, for in every way, and for making India, at that time there was this emerging power context which we were positioning ourselves from the 90s, but later on also in the 2000s, early 2000s, the 21st. So everybody was talking about the Asian century. So we had to position ourselves in that Asian century. And I think he had that vision that India should be, therefore, out there with the United States and with the support of the United States to enter in terms of defense, in terms of economy, industry, also integration into the world economy. I think he was a great advocate of that we should be a trading power, that we should be an industrial power. So for all of that, you needed to have this special strategic partnership with the US. And the nuclear deal was a segue into that. And once he was convinced, he was, I've always found him to be, I always say he's a gentle giant in terms of intellectual and wisdom, intellectual power and wisdom. And so he would be very gentle in asserting his position, but firm, as we saw in the case of the civil nuclear deal. When he was convinced he had to do it, he brooked no opposition and even staked everything within the party and outside.
Absolutely. It was seen as a watershed moment there. Ambassador Puri and Dr. Panda, really appreciate your time. India's global diplomacy, remember, made a tectonic shift in its policy and outlook on the back of two major decisions which were taken by New Delhi in the 1990s, which was the liberalization of India's economy in 1991, for which Dr. Manmohan Singh is credited because he was then the finance minister of India, and also the 1998 nuclear deal, a nuclear test which was carried out at Pokhran under the stewardship of then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. A quick break, and then we remember and pay tributes to Dr. Manmohan Singh as visitors will start arriving at his official residence.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
New day, new show, a new experience. Start your day with the news, not views.
We bring you stories that matter
and impact your lives.
News that informs and keeps you ahead. From Maximum City, Mumbai,
to the seat of governance, Delhi,
NDTV brings to you the best breakfast show. The breakfast show only on NDTV 24/7 every morning at 8 a.m.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the top-most news platform in the country. Number one in both online and offline reach in India. Beating all its competition, NDTV stands for trust.
We are able to maintain the democratic fabric and the democratic system.
I want to do something that can make a difference.
लगातार जनता की आवाज को सरकार तक पहुंचाने का काम मैं करता हूं.
I was a student up until very recently. I really want to work and do something for my people because they have given me this opportunity. They have elected me.
सोचा नहीं था कि राज्यसभा सांसद बनूंगी.
Mahakumbh, a festival of faith. The world's biggest spiritual festival. The divine dip at the spiritual Sangam. A sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV.
Dr. Manmohan Singh being remembered today as it's an end of an era, someone who shaped India's policy, economy and also lives in multiple ways through his welfare policies like the right to education and Manrega, which is the National Rural Employment Guarantee Program. Of course, his interventions in Parliament will be remembered as well, particularly his exchange of words and shairi and poetic wisdom that he shared with late Sushma Swaraj. We are being joined by reporters who are tracking the story this morning. Vasudha is joining us. We also have Shreya. Shreya, coming to you, 9:45 is what we are being told. Home Minister Amit Shah is expected, and 10 a.m. is when the Prime Minister is expected to pay their tributes to Dr. Manmohan Singh and stand with their family in this hour of grief.
That's right. We can definitely feel a strong layer of police presence right here. Security has been amped up because the senior leaders, cabinet ministers who will be arriving shortly at his residence where Dr. Manmohan Singh's mortal remain is kept, and you can see the security deployment right here. The situation right here at AIIMS Delhi, Motilal Nehru Road, right outside Dr. Manmohan Singh's bungalow. The scene is getting chaotic. We can see a tad bit of media frenzy, plus the security getting amped up. Soon we will see the cabinet ministers, including Home Minister Amit Shah, everybody coming and paying homage to Dr. Manmohan Singh, the 14th Prime Minister of India, a man who steered India into its 21st century. He was born in a village in Pakistan with no electricity, no school and no drinking water. He lost his mother at a young age and then had to leave Pakistan after partition. Still, nothing stopped him from getting education. He used to walk miles to go to school, and then, of course, he went to Cambridge, which itself is a huge achievement. He was relentless in his pursuit of knowledge, and that also reflected in his social, political, and economic policies, including, as you were highlighting, the RTI, RT, Manrega, Aadhaar, all these initiatives that he brought about that revolutionized India. Just goes on to show the kind of man that he was, a man man of quiet dignity, a scholar, an intellectual man, an extremely secured politician. And we know to mark tribute, to mark a respect to this man, we know people there have been this national mourning period for the next 7 days that has been declared. All government programs have been cancelled, and in several places we have seen the national flag being hoisted at half-mast, and it's a nationwide mourning period that has been declared for the next 7 days. Back to you.
Yes, and in his own words, India is now wide awake. We shall prevail. We shall overcome. This was what he said in his first budget speech as finance minister on July 24th, 1991. And then again in 2007, referring to the nuclear deal with the United States, the former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh said, in days to come, it will be seen that it is not just the United States, but nations across the world that wish to arrive at a new equilibrium in the relations with India. And of course, the famous prophetic words where he said in 2014, during the course of a press conference as Prime Minister, history will be kinder to me than the media. Vasudha is joining us from live outside the Congress headquarters. Vasudha, it has been pouring, but the arrangements in terms of the security arrangements, what are you seeing? Among the three daughters, we believe one is outside India, and that is the reason why the last rites will happen tomorrow.
That's right, Maria, and like you rightly said, history will be kinder to me. That is what Manmohan Singh had famously said, and clearly, with a mix of cold fury and rain fury, nature is trying its best to make this day in some ways a memorable tribute to Dr. Manmohan Singh. And like you rightly said, one of his daughters is all set to arrive only tonight. 1 a.m. is what we have been told, and that is why his last rites will be held tomorrow, and his model remains are also expected to arrive in the Congress office tomorrow morning. But of course, like Shreya has also been reporting, and we've also been saying that Home Minister Amit Shah, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be paying their final tributes to Dr. Manmohan Singh, two-term Prime Minister of the country, somebody who has held several public positions in administration, in several positions of foreign policy, financial policy, and also, UGC. That his model remains are expected to come to Congress office tomorrow, and this is the Congress office, and this is how it looks like today. And Maria, like you were also talking about how this is a party which has given him everything, but at the same time he was not completely someone who owed his career to.
Home Minister Amit Shah arriving at 3 Motilal Nehru Marg for paying his tributes to Dr. Manmohan Singh. Last rites will be performed tomorrow. The mortal remains of the former Prime Minister is at his official residence, the residence where he was he lived for 10 years after completing his tenure as Prime Minister and exiting office in 2014. Vasudha, go ahead.
So, Maria, like we were discussing, that this is the Congress office, and we've all read the accidental Prime Minister and this line that there was sharing of positions and power, but authority was never delegated. So this is also the party's office, the party which gave Manmohan Singh everything, but of course he does not owe his accomplishments to the party, because he was, already an accomplished man, somebody, who was a known name when it came to finances, economy, even before the party actually brought him in, someone who has his own share of achievements, someone who's been the deputy chairperson of the Planning Commission, somebody who's been the governor of RBI, someone who's been an advisor on foreign trade, and also when it came to financial policies. And, he leaves behind an enduring legacy when it comes to, bringing in liberalization. And clearly at that time, maybe all of that was not really appreciated, because in 1996, Congress did not really get those kind of numbers, but he is the one who opened India to the world. And he also assumed charge as a finance minister when our forex resources were really very low and our fiscal deficit was very high. So it was seen as one of the last options. But the way Manmohan Singh steered India towards, to ensure that the IMF bailout happened in a proper way is something that probably generations Indians will sort of remember, and that is where his enduring legacy lies, apart from the fact that he also sort of gave us credibility as a responsible country when it came to being a nuclear weapon state, and also clinching that very important nuclear deal with the United States of America, which was more powerful than ever, and also that political maneuvering by getting Samajwadi Party in when the left was threatening to walk out. So that was a moment of political brilliance from Dr. Manmohan Singh's side, who is generally seen as a cerebral man. And like Mr. Obama said, a man of uncommon wisdom and decency. So clearly that is something that is probably the biggest imprint on his legacy.
And when he was asked that question famously, what is the future of capitalism in India? Dr. Manmohan Singh in 2009 Financial Times interview had famously said, capitalism with a human face. That's what it was for him, because India was redefining capitalism, and that was the era of bringing in new reforms in terms of ensuring employment, particularly for the rural India. Anuj is joining us from the Congress office in Mumbai. Anuj, most of the Congress leaders in Maharashtra will be arriving in Delhi for paying their last tributes and bidding a final farewell to the the gentle giant, as Dr. Manmohan Singh was famously called. Who all are expected to travel to Delhi today?
We are expecting the likes of Nana Patole, Bala Sahib Thorat, amongst the other tall leaders from Maharashtra to be in Delhi, including several eminent members of parliament here, be it Varsha Gaikwad, who is also the head of Mumbai Congress Committee, to be in Delhi to pay respect to Dr. Manmohan Singh, along with someone like Prithviraj Chavan. Now, Prithviraj Chavan, who was the former Chief Minister of the state of Maharashtra from the year 2010 till 2014, had also worked with Dr. Manmohan Singh earlier. In the PMO, he was a Minister of State and handled a bunch of portfolios, and he was one of those prime ministers, one of those chief ministers here in the state who shared a very close personal and professional relationship with Dr. Manmohan Singh. So we are expecting Prithviraj Chavan to also be in Delhi. Besides that, the alliance partners, that is the likes of Sharad Pawar, who was the Union Agriculture Minister under Manmohan Singh, and has also shared a note talking about their relationship, is also expected to be in Delhi. We have someone like Ashok Chavan, who was the Prime Minister of, who was the Chief Minister of the state in that tumultuous period from 2010 to 2014, and is now a Rajya Sabha MP from Nanded, from Maharashtra, from the Bharatiya Janata Party. Even he talked about how Dr. Manmohan Singh helped Maharashtra during his tenure as a Prime Minister, and not just as a statesman, but also his personal intervention was there in place, for bringing some changes or arranging some programs in the Nanded Gurudwara. That is the place from where Ashok Chavan comes from. So we see that it is not just the impact on the lives of leaders from particular party that Manmohan Singh has had, but his professional commitments have shown that he has had or he has touched the lives of multiple people. We had the current heads of state here in Maharashtra, with the likes of Devendra Fadnavis, and the finance minister and deputy chief minister Ajit Pawar talk about his gigantic contribution to the economy of the country by bringing in the economic reforms. Definitely one of those rare political individuals here in India whom not just one party respects, but organizations along or across the ideological spectrum have spoken in unison to pay tribute to the former Prime Minister of the country.
Yes, homage pouring in from across party lines. Anuj, thank you for joining us. And those who worked with Dr. Manmohan Singh, like former finance minister Mr. P. Chidambaram, remembers him, and he says that his story has not been fully told. His achievements have not been recorded fully. We spoke to several Congress leaders and listen in to what they say as they remember the life and times of Dr. Manmohan Singh.
Manmohan Singh ji in his life, the contributions he made, policy making, to economic growth, to being the governor of the RBI, to be a finance minister, to be the prime minister. He led from the front. He will be remembered for, I think, his honesty and humility and as a person who was someone who had friends across parties, and I think in all his life he kept India first, his nation first. He was a true son of India, and we all miss him today.
An era has ended with the going away of the legendary politician, economist, one of the most sagacious persons that India has seen, Dr. Manmohan Singh ji. His simplicity, his quest for probity and accountability in public life will be remembered by one and all.
All of us are in mourning. He was a great Prime Minister who served the nation as Prime Minister, Finance Minister. He was somebody who was a visionary, who did a great deal for the country. And we are all cancelling the very elaborate programs planned here and rushing back to Delhi, most of us. I remember him as a wonderful man, a good leader, a compassionate individual, a great visionary.
लेकिन देश को इकोनॉमिक क्राइसिस से बाहर लाने के लिए किसी व्यक्ति को श्रेय जाता है तो डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह भी जाता है। आज वो नहीं रहे, देश को अच्छी स्थिति में छोड़ के गए, आज वो नहीं है। हम तो पूरे जो है हमारे प्रत्यक्ष रहेंगे वो, और जो उनसे घाटा हुआ है देश को वो भरना तो नामुमकिन है।
देश के लिए बहुत बड़ा क्षति हुआ है। डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह ईमानदार, निष्ठावान, इस तरह का नेता बिरले ही मिल सकता है जिस पर कोई आरोप नहीं लगा हो, कुछ नहीं लगा। मंत्रिमंडल में मैं उन्हीं के मंत्रिमंडल में मंत्री था, उनके नेतृत्व में, और उनका बहुत बड़ा सहयोग हमको मिला जब हम रेल मंत्री थे।
Our Padma Vibhushan, Dr. Manmohan Singh is no more. We have lost our great leader, the former Prime Minister, the former ACC President, economist, who have been served this country, gave a lot of strength into all sections of the society. He is no more.
The passing of Dr. Manmohan Singh is the end of a chapter in the history of this great country of ours. Though I know that it is not fair to compare one Prime Minister with the other, but undoubtedly he was one of the most outstanding Prime Ministers that India has ever had.
बहुत ही दुख हो रहा है। आज मनमोहन सिंह साहब हमारे में नहीं रहे। 10 साल तक हमारे देश को ऐसे प्रधानमंत्री मिले जो कभी नहीं मिलेंगे अभी। हमारी देश की जो इकोनॉमिक स्थिति है वो केवल और केवल मनमोहन सिंह साहब के वजह से स्थिर रही, उनके पॉलिसीज़ के वजह से। साइलेंटली रेवोल्यूशन, थिंकिंग रेवोल्यूशन मनमोहन सिंह साहब ने इस देश में लाया। आज अक्रॉस पार्टी लाइन सब लोग उनकी रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं।
डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी के निधन पर बहुत ही अफसोस हुआ। वो मेरे ख्याल में देश के पहले प्रधानमंत्री थे जो इकोनॉमिस्ट, और उनकी छाप पूरी दुनिया में पड़ी। उनके इकोनॉमिक लिबरलाइजेशन के लिए, जिससे हिंदुस्तान का इकोनॉमिक नक्शा ही बदल गया। आज उनके क्रिटिक भी उनकी तारीफ करते हैं।
It's a great loss for the nation. I offer my condolences to the family of Manmohan Singh ji. And he's always been an inspiration for youngsters also, especially in the parliament. We have seen that at that age, when he was a member, he was attending all these sessions. And also the contributions that he has made to the country, especially during the economic liberalization that the country went through, will always be remembered by each and every Indian.
श्रद्धांजलि अर्पित करता हूँ परिवार के और सभी संबंधियों को उनके जाने की इस क्षति का यानी सहन करने की शक्ति प्रभु प्रदान करे। मैं उनको प्रभु से प्रार्थना करता हूँ कि अपने चरणों में उनको स्थान दे।
NDTV shines with 38 prestigious wins at the News Television Awards 2024. Powerful journalism to cutting-edge digital innovation, production excellence to regional leadership. NDTV sets the benchmark. 38 awards, each a testament to your trust in NDTV. NDTV stands for trust.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
This week on India Ascends.
Will Myanmar's junta chiefs see the same fate as Syria's Bashar al-Assad? Beijing in limbo as Xi's purge extends to his own men? How Trudeau's own misgivings are likely to become his end? And broken souls in a broken system, why young Wall Street bankers are getting by using ADHD pills.
All this and more only on India Ascends with me, Gauri Dwivedi, at these timings on the NDTV network.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Mahakumbh, a festival of faith. The world's biggest spiritual festival. The divine dip at the spiritual Sangam. A sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
A very warm welcome to the first edition of the NDTV Emerging Business Conclave 2024.
MSME विभाग एक महत्वपूर्ण विभाग है.
We have to think about what is brand India. India will always stand for democracy. We will always be one of the largest investors in the world.
It is also very, very important that these MSMEs grow.
We are seeing that women are coming up in many other sectors apart from the traditional sectors.
2024, the year that was, when India welcomed
The former Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, has died at the age of 92. A 7-day national mourning for Manmohan Singh, a state funeral for the former Prime Minister. Leaders pay their last respects to the former Prime Minister at his Delhi residence. The Prime Minister, the Home Minister, they are at the ex-Prime Minister's residence. Manmohan Singh, a global statesman, world leaders pay tribute to the former Prime Minister. India's cricket team's ode to Manmohan Singh. The men in blue wear a black armband for the former Prime Minister. The Indian team's tribute on day 2 of the India-Australia series. In the United States, the External Affairs Minister meets the US National Security Advisor to discuss current regional and global developments. Reports are that A surface-to-air missile is behind the Azerbaijan airliner crash in Kazakhstan. Russia warns against any hypothesis linked to this. Good morning. Dr. Manmohan Singh, India's former Prime Minister, died at the age of 92 last night at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Recognized as one of India's greatest economists, Manmohan Singh's contributions to India's economic framework were profound and transformative. Before his political career, Singh held several key economic roles, including Governor of the Reserve Bank of India. At this stage, the Prime Minister is arriving at the residence of the former Prime Minister, the late Prime Minister, and Amit Shah, the Home Minister, I believe, is also there at this stage. Let's go across to NDTV's Shreya Ghosh for more. Shreya, what's happening around you?
Well, of course, we can see that Home Minister Amit Shah has arrived at the residence of Dr. Manmohan Singh. And we can also see Prime Minister Narendra Modi arriving shortly, or I think he has already arrived at the residence here in AIIMS Delhi. We can see security amped up. There's definitely a thick layer of police presence right outside the residence. This is the place, this sprawling bungalow where Dr. Manmohan Singh has lived for the last 10 years. PM Modi has arrived, Amit Shah has arrived. They are here to pay homage to Dr. Manmohan Singh, the man who has steered India to its 21st century, the maker of modern India, the one who has often been described as a reluctant Prime Minister, an accidental Prime Minister, but his social, political and economic policies have time and again proven the kind of person that he was, a man of quiet dignity, and that is why the entire nation is mourning the loss of this magnanimous man. We know that right here, of course, at his residence, several leaders, including the cabinet ministers, we of course know that Prime Minister Modi and Amit Shah has already arrived. Other cabinet ministers will be arriving shortly at around 11 o'clock, and they will be paying homage to Dr. Manmohan Singh. We know that the government has declared a nationwide mourning period for the next 7 days. All government programs have been cancelled, and we can see the national flag being hoisted at half-mast in several places across all states in the country. And it is quite personal. This loss feels personal for each and every person across party lines. Everybody has been pouring condolences over the demise of
All right, Shreya, just
Dr.
be with
Manmohan
us
Singh.
for a moment. I'm just going to go through some of the main achievements of Dr. Manmohan Singh. He was most celebrated. His most celebrated achievement came in perhaps 1991 when as finance minister under P.V. Narasimha Rao, he spearheaded economic liberalization. This liberalization dismantled the licensed Raj, it reduced bureaucratic red tape, it opened up the markets to foreign investment, it laid the groundwork for India's economic boom. As Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh was celebrated for initiatives like the Right to Information Act. The image that you see on your screen is of the Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, inside the residence of the late Prime Minister, meeting Gulshan and Kaur over there, the late Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's widow, the Prime Minister at the residence of Manmohan Singh. Let's just listen in. Amit Shah, the Home Minister, along with the Prime Minister at the residence of Manmohan Singh, laying floral tributes at the casket which has the mortal remains of the former Prime Minister. Dr. Manmohan Singh remembered fondly across the country, across political lines around the world. JP Nadda also over there. Various senior BJP leaders, party leaders, and from various walks of life at the residence of the late Prime Minister. This would be expected in the case of any Prime Minister, but I think there is a certain personal association. The fact that Manmohan Singh, through his politics, through his demeanor, through what he was as an intellectual, through his governance, and through his belief in the revival of India's economy or the growth of India's economy, these are all views which resonated with all political leaders, political parties, and in a sense, policies of successive governments have seen a continuity in the trajectory which Manmohan Singh first laid out. So the Prime Minister there at the residence of the late Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh's most celebrated achievement came in 1991 when as Finance Minister under P.V. Narasimha Rao, he spearheaded economic liberalization. He was also celebrated later on as a Prime Minister for passing initiatives like the Right to Information Act, the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act or Manrega, and the India-US Civil Nuclear Deal. His passing, as I've been mentioning, is a significant loss to both Indian politics and economics, with tributes coming in from leaders across the political spectrum, acknowledging his role in shaping modern India's economy. The nation is currently observing a 7-day mourning period in his honor. He will be cremated tomorrow. The images on your screen are of the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, at the residence of Dr. Manmohan Singh. We'll stay with these images for a few more moments. The Prime Minister paying his respects. The mortal remains of the late Prime Minister draped in the national colours in the Tiranga. The Prime Minister meeting the widow of the late Prime Minister Manmohan Singh over there. We saw Amit Shah, the Home Minister, also present along with the Prime Minister. You can see Amit Shah over there, also JP Nadda, several leaders across political lines, a real sign of the respect that Manmohan Singh enjoyed. I'm joined now by my colleague Vasudha Venugopal. She is at the Congress headquarters. Give us a sense, Vasudha, of what's happening around you. Just a few moments back, we had the Prime Minister at the residence of Manmohan Singh. What's happening at the Congress office?
Well, Vishnu, I come to you from the Congress office, and this is a party that made Dr. Manmohan Singh Prime Minister for 2 terms. But we all know that his accomplishments are not completely because of the Congress party. He was, brought in when Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister. In fact, P.N. Aksar also sort of ensured that he remained in the system. His accomplishments overshone that of his detractors, his opponents, and he was a technocrat, somebody who has been in several, public positions. Like you rightly said, the governor of RBI, the deputy chairperson of Planning Commission, also the head of the University Grants Commission. So clearly somebody who was extremely accomplished and someone who came from humble beginnings, not someone who came from an elite background, which also made it impossible for the BJP to, attack him on those fronts. And also he was different from someone like, say, Dr. Pranab Mukherjee, that the BJP often sort of wooed and flirted with. Dr. Manmohan Singh made his public and political positioning very clear, and what I understand is that his mortal remains will be brought to the Congress office only tomorrow, because the family is waiting for one of his daughters to arrive in India, which is going to happen late tonight. And of course tomorrow is when his body will be brought to the Congress office, and this is the party where there was a lot of, seat sharing, of course, a position and responsibility sharing between Sonia Gandhi as chairperson of UPA and also the chairperson of NAC, and Manmohan Singh as the Prime Minister was done. But it was Manmohan Singh's personality that often led the BJP to attack him as a weak Prime Minister, as someone who was spineless. And Dr. Singh always took that in his stride, and he said that history will be kinder to him. And I think that was in some ways very prophetic, because today we do talk about the importance of the liberalization reforms that he introduced in 1991, the importance of the US deal that he clinched, and also several other legislations that he passed, including the Rural Health Mission or Manrega, Rural Employment Generation Scheme, which now has become one of the benchmarks for how employment could be guaranteed, and also something like the RTI and the RTE and the Unique Identification Authority, which produces Aadhaar, which has become a national identity of sorts. So clearly, Manmohan Singh leaves behind a very important, legacy imprint on not just on our economic policies, but also on our foreign policy, and also several aspects of governance. All of that is going to come to fore today, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called him one of the most distinguished leaders of India. He has appreciated his role as a parliamentarian. Remember, he remained an MP for 33 years, always taking the Rajya Sabha route after losing that South Delhi election in 1999. He was criticized for his for leading the country, during UPA's second term when the country was shaken by several corruption scandals. But other than that, his demeanor, his non-confrontational attitude, his own accomplishments overshone all of that. And in his own words, history will be kinder to him. And today, in this whole weather, which is marked by cold and rain fury, I think the nature is also trying to make this day, the final day of goodbye to him, in some ways quite memorable.
Vasudha, let's talk a little bit about the fact that Dr. Manmohan Singh was always a reluctant politician. He was much more interested in getting the job done, in implementing policy and driving policy. But politics, even within the Congress party, was something that never really worked for him. And yet it was Sonia Gandhi who propelled him into the Prime Minister's post again. I remember being in the studio when the talk was that Sonia Gandhi would be the Prime Minister of the country. The announcement was about to happen, and then it was Manmohan Singh. So tell us about that facade of the late Prime Minister.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Vishnu. We knew that Sonia Gandhi was the chairperson of the NAC. She was also the chairperson of the UPA. And there were very important leaders like Pranab Mukherjee, Ahmed Patel that worked alongside her. And Pranab Mukherjee was the finance minister when Dr. Manmohan Singh was the RBI governor from 1982 to 1985. But when he became the prime minister, it was Dr. Pranab Mukherjee who became his finance minister. And Dr. Manmohan Singh used to call him sir all the time till he was asked not to do that by Dr. Mukherjee himself. So clearly, there were several egos at play there, and we know that what happened during nuclear deal was also fascinating because Sonia Gandhi was seen as someone who was earlier in favor of that, and of course there was also a lot of pressure from the opposition. The left parties were very powerful then, but that was one unique highlight of Dr. Manmohan Singh's career, where he managed to get Samajwadi Party on his side and did not let the government fall, and in some ways took the criticism of the left also in his stride, because some way he believed that it was important for India to show itself as a responsible nuclear weapons state, and clinching a deal with the United States of America at a time when the world was so unipolar was also remarkable in some ways. Strengthening relations with the United States of America was also in some ways important in setting the stage for the kind of relations we have with the West today. So he was an accidental prime minister. He knew his strengths, but he also was aware of his weaknesses. He did not get into a lot of confrontation or political maneuvering. The only struggling challenge for him was when the ordinance that his government had passed with regard to disqualification of MPs who were found, guilty by courts and were imprisoned for more than 2 years, sentenced to imprisonment for more than 2 years. It was Rahul Gandhi who told that ordinance in a press conference. He later on subsequently said that Rahul Gandhi had apologized to him, which is why he did not resign. But Vishnu, his personality was also in many ways one of the main fodder for the BJP's campaign in 2014, because he was seen as a weak and a spineless prime minister then. Of course, all of us in some ways know that that was just a political point, because that is why the prime minister also made it a point to call him one of the most accomplished leaders of independent India. And while he could have been an accidental prime minister, his legacy leaves a very strong imprint on our economic policies and also several aspects of governance.
In fact, let's talk a little bit about that. Let me go across to my colleague Anuj, who joins us from the Mumbai Congress office. As Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh was celebrated for initiatives like the Right to Information Act that defined so much of transparency in this country. Many say that a lot more needs to be done. The Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, Manrega, also the India-US civil nuclear deal. His passing is a significant loss to both Indian politics and economics, and some of the policies have come to define what a modern India is. Where you are today is a reflection of, is there a reflection, Anuj, of some of his policies, some of his politics? Are people talking about his legacy at the Congress office, where you are at in Mumbai?
More than Mumbai, it's very interesting that the kind of relationship that Prime Minister Singh has had with Maharashtra during his tenure, not just as the two-term Prime Minister of the country, but also as a finance minister, has been very important and crucial right? We've had several leaders here who have represented, or have held important portfolios under him, ranging from important portfolios like agriculture to even Minister of State, and have later served as heads of state here in Maharashtra. But the policies which you named are very closely linked or related to the lives of hundreds of thousands of farmers and laborers in the more depressed parts of the state. When you talk about Maharashtra, right, there are regions like Vidarbha, there are regions like central Maharashtra where the lack of agricultural development and the erratic nature of rainfall had been the major source of stress for a lot of farmers and daily wage workers. And especially when the unemployment was at its peak, we had these policies make sure that there is at least some amount of income that families and women and laborers are able to make in places like Marathwada and Vidarbha, as I've reiterated earlier. Besides that, right to information, we are standing here in Mumbai, and Mumbai is one of the hubs for RTI activists. And RTI activists, they make sure that the judicial cases and the proceedings kind of speed up, and it's completely based on facts. And a huge credit for that, of course, has to be given to Dr. Manmohan Singh as well. And this is what not just the common people here are saying, but also the likes of Prithviraj Chavan, someone who's worked under him in as a Minister of State. He was in the PMO and was later shifted and made a lateral entry into electoral politics, as then he went on to become the Chief Minister of the state, especially at a time when Maharashtra was, the Congress party and the Congress government here in Maharashtra was under huge pressure. Not just them, but we've also got organizations on the right wing of the spectrum and leaders like Devendra Fadnavis, who have politically always been opposing the likes of Manmohan Singh and his associates. But since yesterday, we've seen that tributes have come in from these leaders who've talked about his contribution, in different sectors of lives of people here in Maharashtra, not just through Manrega or right to information, but also, as a very able finance minister, and then as a prime minister with a very socialist intent.
All right, just in case you are tuning in, a reminder to our viewers of what's going on. Dr. Manmohan Singh, India's former Prime Minister, has died at the age of 92. He passed away last night at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. He was recognized as one of India's greatest economists. His contributions to India's economic framework were profound and transformative. Before his political career, Dr. Manmohan Singh held several key economic roles, including Governor of the Reserve Bank of India. His most celebrated achievement came in 1991 when, as Finance Minister under P.V. Narasimha Rao, then Prime Minister, he spearheaded the process or the start of India's economic transition, liberalization. This liberalization dismantled the license Raj. It reduced bureaucratic red tape. It opened up the markets to foreign investment. It laid the groundwork for India's economic boom. As Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh was celebrated for initiatives like the Right to Information Act, the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, Manrega, and the landmark India-US Civil Nuclear Deal, which transformed the relationship between India and the United States, which was till then an adversary in a sense. His passing is a significant loss to both Indian politics and economics, with tributes coming in from leaders across the political spectrum, acknowledging his role in shaping India's modern economy. India is observing a 7-day mourning period in his honor. Dr. Manmohan Singh will be cremated tomorrow. I'm joined now by Aditi Fadnis and Liz Matthew. Aditi, let me come to you first. You've had the opportunity of covering Dr. Manmohan Singh very closely for several decades. We'll talk about his politics later on, but just be with me for a moment. I'm joined now by Praful Patel on the phone line. Thanks, Mr. Patel, very much for being with us. Your thoughts at the passing of Dr. Manmohan Singh?
Well, it's a sad day for the nation and, of course, for me personally too. I've had the great honor and privilege of working for 10 years under his leadership. And I can say with a great sense of pride and certainty that he was one of the tallest leaders, as I would say, the tallest prime ministers India has ever produced. He's redefined the Indian landscape. We, from 91 till today, what we have achieved is remarkable, and his contribution will always be the lion's share and remembered for generations to come. If there's one way India could have transformed, it was economically There's no answer to poverty, to unemployment, to any other problems of the country until and unless we progress economically. And that's exactly what he did, and the results are for all of us to see.
You were Civil Aviation Minister, Mr. Patel, at a time when India's economy was very much in the middle of this process of liberalization. Dr. Manmohan Singh would obviously have interacted with you quite closely. Could you tell us or share with our viewers some of his impressions on how the revival of aviation in India, which you spearheaded in a sense, was an essential part of the India growth story?
Well, of course, every part of the economy had to move in sync. And I was given the responsibility of aviation by Dr. Manmohan Singh. And I remember a month and a half or so into my tenure, I had prepared a master plan of the various components of the sector and how we should progress and move step by step. And he took a very detailed presentation. Normally, Prime Minister to give more than 3 hours for a minister on a subject. It's not normally done, but he took the entire presentation, understood all the moving parts, and told me, give me a day or two and I will come back to you. And sure he did. And then he gave me a go-ahead on most of the things which I had proposed. And 1 or 2 things he says we can defer for a little time and we'll take this on step 2. And once the go-ahead was given, then there was no looking back. He trusted his ministers. He trusted people who could deliver. And that was, I would say, a very, very, very big support to anyone working in the government. You see, the Prime Minister is fully behind me. And I think he had that understanding of the economy, of various subjects which needed attention. Aviation was one of them. And that's why one could see the huge transformation. In spite of the left party, 64 MPs at that time in the UPA 1, we could privatize airports where all the unions were of the left parties.
Yeah.
We could liberalize the skies. We could open up, give newer licenses, and whatever boom you see today, a large part of that foundation of airports, of airlines, of more planes coming in, the international liberalization, all that happened because the person who's heading the government gave his fullest support.
Yeah.
And I think not only for that, I would say, he had a quiet way of working. People sometimes would feel, is he in control? Is he not in control? Is there some other force behind him? That was not the case. He was a very strong man, very committed, very humble, and that is why sometimes misunderstood. But I can tell you, he had a great command over the government. One of the key examples of that would be the Indo-US nuclear deal, that too in UPA 1, where the government was itself at risk and peril of collapsing because of the left parties opposing the deal. But his conviction was there. He made sure that he stood by it because he realized, and I had one conversation with him and I asked him, sir, are we going to see this through, or is it the end of the government? I mean, it was more in a lighter vein, but he said, Praful, this is something which India needs, and this will propel us into the next league of the nations standing in the world. And I think he was right, and certainly time and history has proved that India has moved forward, and our relations with the rest of the world, our economy, and now being the 5th largest economy in the world is something where a large part of the foundation was laid by people of his stature and wisdom. That is something we as Indians should never forget, and maybe our future generations may not remember directly, but he will be one of the key contributors for their future, and that is something we should all pride ourselves in.
Mr. Patel, thank you very much for joining us, speaking to us. Aditi Fadnis, let me come across to you. I was just about to ask you when Praful Patel joined the line. Is there any personal memory of his that strikes you at this stage?
Oh, yes, so many. The strongest personal memory I have is of 2004, when the Congress actually came to power. And Dr. Manmohan Singh was named Prime Minister by Sonia Gandhi in the Central Hall at that tumultuous meeting. After that, we all went to his house, and at that time it was too early still for the house to get security, so we could actually walk right in. And there, Mrs. Manmohan Singh was for a brief moment alone. So I asked her, Mrs. Kaur, your husband is going to become the Prime Minister now. What do you think of him? She said he doesn't speak much, but I know he will be a good Prime Minister, and I know he will bring prices down. Then I asked her, when you have a fight with him, who does the making up?
Right.
Because that, to me, illustrates the power of the balance of power in a relationship. So she smiled and she said, oh, he always does. In many ways, that appreciation of Dr. Manmohan Singh is the man himself. Few know about his role in politics and the crucial role he played in 2002, when he had joined the Congress, and the Congress was on the verge of forming a government in Jammu and Kashmir, but there was a tussle between Ghulam Nabi Azad and Mufti Muhammad Saeed. And he was the one who first suggested that they could have 2 terms each of, alternatively. And that was the first time this experiment was ever tried in India. So he could understand that both leaders had a stake, both were important leaders, both needed to have a voice in the government at the top level. So how to achieve that without, annoying the other one? And as a matter of fact, that was perhaps one of the few times the experiment really worked well, because Mufti Muhammad Said did actually yield in favor of Ghulam Nabi Azad.
Aditi, as journalists, we used to often talk about the remote control for the Manmohan Singh government, UPA 1 and 2, coming from elsewhere, from Sonia Gandhi's residence. How true was that in hindsight?
Some of the signals were definitely coming, but there were a lot of things on which Dr. Manmohan Singh was very determined and very clear he would not yield. And one of them was the who should head the Reserve Bank of India. He was absolutely clear that the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister alone will decide who that person should be. In his view, that was an absolutely key position in the economic management of the country. And he, having been governor himself, he understood the role that Dr. Manmohan Singh was actually swimming in a sea of sharks. And I have to say that he navigated those waters very, very deftly.
Liz, how was Dr. Manmohan Singh less interested in the inner politics of the Congress party? And there were plenty of that. There was plenty of that. And more about the business of running the government.
Yes, Vishnu, you are right, but actually, 2 things I want to say here. One is that, he, taking cue from what Aditi just said, that, whenever he felt that he was convinced of certain things, he would put his foot down. I remember, when we met him during a book release at Panchmadi, when I asked him about, there were this allegations of, too much interventions and all. So then, and also the complaint, the allegations of charges of his government being weak and all. So he said, actually that line, not exactly that history will test me. He's told me that you will see, you in your lifetime will see that I am right. That is one thing. And also, that when the left was like opposing to the nuclear deal, Dr. Singh said that if left wants to withdraw it, so be it. So he did not care whether the government will fall or so. In fact, he made his own trustworthy people to talk to Samajwadi Party and ensure that the government had kind of, surveyed that July 18's flow test that time. The second thing, like a lot of people think that, his relationship with the Congress or the Gandhi family, like, started in 2002. But actually, if he was very close to Rajiv Gandhi, and Rajiv Gandhi wanted him to be part of his government if they were coming to power. When Mr. Chandrasekhar was the Prime Minister, there was an allegation inside Parliament he raised against Dr. Singh that, he had shown the secret report of IMF to Rajiv Gandhi, who was the leader of the Congress, which was supporting his government, instead of showing it to the Prime Minister and the government. So their relationship also, like, I have seen, how even when other leaders were used to, like, maybe not very respectful of Dr. Singh, I have heard stories about, cabinet meetings, where, some veteran leaders used to, like, make fun of him. But, I have seen, in the party meetings and how Sonia Gandhi used to ensure that Manmohan Singh is respected. Even one simple example, like, in an AICC meeting, I remember seeing, I think it was in Hyderabad, Sonia Gandhi pulling out these pillows there, and giving it to Dr. Singh, because there was only one, to support him at his place. Sonia Gandhi pulled out hers and, give it to him. So Sonia Gandhi, I have seen, in the body language always used to be very sure that, Dr. Singh, and we have, like, you also have just shown this visuals of Sonia Gandhi showing the manifesto of party UPA too, like, and hiding her own picture from the cover page. That visual was very much, it was there in all front pages of the newspapers, reading newspapers, and even one of the papers the next day. So, yeah, so that way, Sonia Gandhi was very particular, and his loyalty and friendship with the Gandhi family was always, it was never affected by any controversies or any charges.
All right, Liz, we'll come back to you in a moment. I do need to take a short break at this stage. Come back, track the life and times of Dr. Manmohan Singh after this quick commercial break. Stay tuned.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
New day, new show, a new experience. Start your day with the news, not views. We bring you stories that matter and impact your lives. News that informs and keeps you ahead.
From Maximum City, Mumbai,
to the seat of governance, Delhi, NDTV brings to you the best breakfast show. The breakfast show only on NDTV 24/7 every morning at 8 a.m.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the top-most news platform in the country. Number one in both online and offline reach in India. Beating all its competition, NDTV stands for trust.
Are able to maintain the democratic fabric and the democratic system.
I want to do something that can make a difference.
लगातार जनता की आवाज को सरकार तक पहुंचाने का काम मैं करता हूं।
I was a student up until very recently. I really want to work and do something for my people because they have given me this opportunity. They have elected me.
सोचा नहीं था कि राज्यसभा सांसद बनूंगी।
Mahakumbh, a festival of faith, the world's biggest spiritual festival, the divine dip at the spiritual Sangam, a sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
NDTV shines with 38 prestigious wins at the News Television Awards 2024. Powerful journalism to cutting-edge digital innovation, production excellence to regional leadership. NDTV sets the benchmark. 38 awards, each a testament to your trust in NDTV. NDTV stands for trust. In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
This week on India Ascends.
Will Myanmar's junta chiefs see the same fate as Syria's Bashar al-Assad? Beijing in limbo as Xi's purge extends to his own men? How Trudeau's own misgivings are likely to become his end? And broken souls in a broken system, why young Wall Street bankers are getting by using ADHD pills.
All this and more only on India Ascends with me, Gauri Dwivedi, at these timings on the NDTV network.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Mahakumbh, a festival of faith, the world's biggest spiritual festival, the divine dip at the spiritual Sangam, a sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
A very warm welcome to the first edition of the NDTV Emerging Business Conclave 2024.
MSME विभाग एक महत्वपूर्ण विभाग है.
We have to think about what is brand India. India will always stand for democracy. We will always be one of the largest investors in the world.
It is also very, very important that these MSMEs grow.
We are seeing that women are coming up in many other sectors apart from the traditional sectors.
2024, the year that was, when India welcomed Ram. When India decided,
मैं नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी,
when Jammu and Kashmir turned a historic leaf,
as Chief Minister for the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir,
when India mourned, when India celebrated, when
Well, today we mourn the passing of Dr. Manmohan Singh at the age of 92. He passed away last night at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, old age-related complications. He served as India's Prime Minister from 2004 to 2014, a significant period marked by social reforms and economic growth. Dr. Singh was instrumental in shaping India's economic liberalization, most notably as Finance Minister in 1991. We should be able to show you images now of Sonia Gandhi arriving at the residence of Dr. Manmohan Singh. We'll just play out those images the moment we get it. He was Finance Minister in 1991, where his policies rescued India from financial disaster, some would suggest. As Prime Minister, he led the signing of the US-India Civil Nuclear Agreement, ending India's nuclear isolation. He introduced the Right to Information Act, promoting transparency and governance. His administration also enacted Manrega, aimed to provide employment to rural households. Respected across political divides for his integrity and scholarly approach, Dr. Manmohan Singh's legacy includes transformative steps in education, health, and foreign policy. His calm and humble demeanor won admiration from both allies and critics. His death marks the end of an era, leaving behind a profound impact on India's development and diplomacy. We are told that Sonia Gandhi has also arrived at the residence of the late Prime Minister. We should have some visuals of that in a little while from now. Let me go straight across to my colleague Vasudha Venugopal. Vasudha, let's just step back a little bit and go back to that time when Dr. Manmohan Singh never knew that he was going to be Finance Minister of the country. Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister, and then a message came, please be present for the swearing in. Mr. Alexander, who used to work very closely with Narasimha Rao as a special advisor, made that phone call to Manmohan Singh, who apparently didn't believe it earlier on, but then showed up for the swearing in and then became Finance Minister of India, and the rest, they say, is history.
Absolutely, Vishnu, and I think you would remember that very well because you had covered it also. And Manmohan Singh is often seen as this accidental Prime Minister, somebody whose own accomplishments outshone that of his detractors and also his own opponents, in some ways, people in his own party and also, in the rival party, somebody whose accomplishments had nothing to do with the Gandhi family. He was not a Darbari. That's what, people would call a lot of people at least the opposition would call a lot of people in the Congress party. He was seen as somebody who not only set the stage for ease of business in the country, for liberal reforms, brought in the liberal reforms, but also had an imprint, had a role to play in ensuring that our foreign policy is on track, somebody who had a great role to play in bringing in legislation that UPA, the first term of the UPA was known for, including right to education, right to information, and also Manrega and rural health mission. But when the accidental call, when the call was made to him, of course, he did accept it, and that was seen as a master stroke from Sonia Gandhi's side. He became the first Sikh Prime Minister of the country, but he remained non-confrontational, and he had this very clearly sorted out in his head that the power sharing had been done, but in terms of sharing of authority, a lot of it remained with Sonia Gandhi because she remained the chairperson of the UPA. It was party that was running the government, which also became one of the criticism points, something that the BJP raised very strongly in 2014. Also, something that played a role in Narendra Modi coming to power as the Prime Minister of the country with a huge sweep. But to his credit, Manmohan Singh has been an accomplished economist, somebody who, brought in the liberalization when the country was going through a very tough phase. You know that our forex resources had hit a historic low. In fact, our fiscal deficit was very high. It was the finance minister then, Manmohan Singh, and also PV Narasimha Rao, who steered the country, through the whole IMF bailout that happened, in some ways setting the stage. for the country's, trajectory of the kind of growth that we have today. And of course, the nuclear deal followed, in which Manmohan Singh showed a lot of political insight and astuteness, because he got the Samajwadi Party to support his government even as the left threatened to walk out. So clearly those moments of brilliance out there, but his second term was also, rocked by a lot of, scandals, corruption scandals. But of course, he remained above all of that. His personal integrity remained impeachable, which is why the Prime Minister has also talked about three things. One, about his humble beginnings. Second thing, about him being a distinguished, one of the most distinguished leaders of the country. And the third thing, his role as a parliamentarian and somebody whose work touched a lot of Indians, because he believed that development and welfare need to have a human face. He's somebody who was who was a product of partition, and somebody who believed that it was important to be secular. His political positioning was always very clear. And last thing, I remember this WikiLeaks, the stories that came out in the Hindu, in his conversations with M.K. Narayanan, then, on the Pakistan WikiLeaks, he clearly said there was a need to be very cautious with the relationship with Pakistan, because there's a history that, we share. So someone who's very sensitive to those aspects, and somebody who believed that any work of the government has to have a human face to it. And that is how I think the country remembers him today, on the day of the final goodbye to Dr. Manmohan Singh.
Let's talk about some of the more challenging times that Manmohan Singh faced when he was Prime Minister. I remember 2G was one of them. The Commonwealth Games was something else which took place. These were some of the most trying times for the Congress party. Some would suggest that the momentum that the BJP picked on over a period of time on the basis of corruption allegations really changed, the prospects of the Congress in elections going forward. And he was Prime Minister at the time. What sort of impact did this have on him personally? How did he deal with it?
Absolutely, Vishnu. Like, the way you look at it today would be very different from the way we looked at it in 2013 and 2014, because in 2013 and 2014, his personality became, the central point of the BJP's campaign, because he was seen as someone who had, who was completely okay with decisions being taken by just the party. In fact, in Nija Chaudhary's columns, we've seen how there were leaders in the Congress party, including Ahmed Patel, who were very critical of the way he dealt with the nuclear deal signing with the United States of America. So clearly there were many challenging times that he faced, and there were also these highlights of his own autonomy, his agency that he stressed upon, which of course was reflected in the way he signed the nuclear deal with the US. And the second, I think the most challenging time was when Rahul Gandhi walked into that press conference and told that ordinance, which his government was expected to bring in, and that was a big time of embarrassment for him, something that would have pained him. And he had actually talked about how Rahul Gandhi had subsequently apologized to him. It was expected that he would have resigned then, but he didn't. There was a lot of talk about his self-worth, his self-respect then, but he remained a non-confrontational person. I think, Vishnu, also because his own accomplishments, overrode those factors. He was not, the essential politician, but somebody who believed in his ideals, in his values, in somebody who believed in the work that was given to him. And this, he was very sorted in his head that he had a certain part of the responsibility of running the government, but when it came to party and those important affairs with regard to alliance, there was somebody else who was taking those decisions, and he was completely okay with that. So clearly a mixed legacy there, but when it comes to accomplishments, clearly one of the most accomplished, one of the most qualified prime ministers of the country, and also someone with quiet dignity, someone that the country would very fondly remember in the years to come.
You're talking about the remote control. You haven't used those words, perhaps impolite in a situation like it is now, but for decades, that's the way for years, that's the way it was reported, that there was a remote control, that the Gandhis were very much in charge, and you had a prime minister who wasn't really necessarily the person taking the calls or taking the shots. Now, that's only partly correct, because I do believe that on several key issues of governance, Manmohan Singh was allowed to do what he wanted. But then there were political issues where perhaps the Gandhis had a more direct involvement. Is that right?
Yes, I think, Vishnu, when it came to the National Advisory Council, it was Sonia Gandhi who was driving it, and that was a very powerful body. Apart from that, she was a UPA chairperson, and she had advisors like Ahmed Patel who were driving politics of the country. It was also a very difficult government because they were very difficult partners. The left parties were very vocal in what they wanted, in their demands. There was a Samajwadi Party that also wanted its wanted its share when it came to power. But I think, what we know so far is that Manmohan Singh also operated very deftly. He had his own coterie of people. He had his own loyalists. His political positioning was always very clear. He was not like Dr. Pranab Mukherjee, who the BJP would also at some point flirt with, in the recent years. He was someone whose politics was very clear right from the beginning. And his accomplishments had very little to do with the Gandhi family, which is what made him also someone very respectable in the realm of Indian politics.
Let's go back to the civil nuclear deal. It came at a time when there was still trepidation about how India should be dealing with the United States. For decades, we had been almost adversaries, a real worry about how far we should go with America. But he felt that a civil nuclear deal was essential for India and our economic growth story, right?
Absolutely, Vishnu. What I think, and you would know this better, but I think the UPA chairperson, Sonia Gandhi, earlier was in favor of the deal, but of course the left parties were vocally opposing it then. And Manmohan Singh very strongly believed that it was important to get that clean sheet from the nuclear suppliers group to have our positioning, as a responsible nuclear weapons state. And he firmly believed in that. He thought that was very important for the country. And that was one time when he showed his complete autonomy and agency. And like Neeraj Chaudhary also writes about how, there were people in the party like Ahmed Patel who was not very happy with it. And, he had very clearly said that it's a party that should be making these decisions and they should be, getting the alliances act right. But Dr. Manmohan Singh got the Samajwadi Party to support that, even as the left threatened to walk out. So some quick political maneuvering there that happened. And that, I think, came from the fact that he was very convinced about the fact that this was important for the country, and in some ways that also laid the foundation for our relations with the United States of America, something that the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, said. In fact, he said that while everyone did talk about his imprint in economic matters, the fact that he did have a role to play in our relations with the West is also something that needs to be talked about.
No, certainly that strategic relationship with the United States, all the foundational agreements which have taken place, and a lot of what happened in the last couple of years has happened after Manmohan Singh's time and sort of has picked up on what he tried to do. Rahul Gandhi and Manmohan Singh, what was the relationship like?
Well, it was, one of the most challenging phases of Dr. Manmohan Singh's life was when Rahul Gandhi marched into that press conference and he told that the ordinance that was prepared by Dr. Manmohan Singh's government, the UPA government, in which, any MP who has been imprisoned who has been sentenced to an imprisonment of 2 years or beyond by the court would be disqualified. Rahul Gandhi came and told that he wanted to make a political point, and it was an embarrassment for the Manmohan Singh government, and it was expected that he would resign, but clearly that did not happen. He subsequently did tell reporters that Rahul Gandhi had eventually apologized to him, which is why he didn't resign. But that was, that also made the opposition, the BJP then, its criticism very strong that Manmohan Singh was somebody who he didn't have the spine to take on the Gandhi family, which I believe, he knew the divisions of power very well in his head. He knew that it was the party that was running the government in some ways, but like you rightly said, there were aspects of governance in which he was completely sort of autonomous. But he did know that there was somebody who was slightly more powerful than him, and he has to sort of ensure that he worked in complete tandem with knowing those limitations beforehand. I think that was a challenging point for him. But yesterday, Rahul Gandhi did write about how he lost a mentor, in the passing away of Manmohan Singh. Priyanka Gandhi was the first one to reach his house yesterday, and she has said that she has been one of the most inspiring figures and somebody who took on personal attacks of his opponents in his stride, somebody who was non-confrontational. So clearly a lot of glorious words from both Gandhi siblings there. Sonia Gandhi has already reached there. So clearly the Gandhi family, believed in him, they trusted him, and which is why he was made the Prime Minister in the first place, which at that point was seen as a masterstroke, but I'm sure he did take up a lot of challenges, a lot of responsibility, and of course, while we give him a lot of credit for it right now, but in 2013, 2014, he did face a lot of flack for all of this.
All right, Vasudha, it's going to be a long morning for you. It's a cold day in the national capital. It's been raining a fair bit. They say that rain actually brings a great deal of luck and good luck. So perhaps a good day for us to remember Dr. Manmohan Singh and his contributions. We'll come back to you in a little while from now. Let's just listen in to several reactions which have been coming in from leaders across party lines on the passing of Dr. Manmohan Singh.
ക്ഷമയോടുകൂടി അദ്ദേഹം അത് കൈകാര്യം ചെയ്തു. ക്ഷമയോടുകൂടി കൈകാര്യം ചെയ്തതിൻ്റെ ഫലമായി ഒരിഞ്ച് ഭൂമി മുഴുവൻ നഷ്ടപ്പെടാതെ അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ 10 വർഷത്തെ ഭരണകാലത്തെ ചൈനയുമായ തർക്കങ്ങളെല്ലാം നീണ്ട കൂടിയായതോടുകൂടി ക്ഷമയോടുകൂടി കൈകാര്യം ചെയ്ത് ആ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾക്കെല്ലാം കൃത്യമായി പരിഹാരം ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് സാധിച്ചു.
New day, new show, a new experience. Start your day with the news, not views. We bring you stories that matter and impact your lives. News that informs and keeps you ahead.
From Maximum City, Mumbai,
to the seat of governance, Delhi, NDTV brings to you the best breakfast show. The breakfast show only on NDTV 24/7 every morning at 8 a.m.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the top-most news platform in the country. Number 1 in both online and offline reach in India. Beating all its competition, NDTV stands for trust.
We are able to maintain the democratic fabric and the democratic system.
I want to do something that can make a difference.
लगातार जनता की आवाज को सरकार तक पहुंचाने का काम मैं करता हूं.
I was a student up until very recently. I really want to work and do something for my people because they have given me.
और यहाँ जीवन के हर क्षेत्र में उपलब्धियां हासिल करना ये सामान्य बात नहीं है. अभावों और संघर्षों से ऊपर उठकर कैसे ऊंचाइयों को हासिल किया जा सकता है, उनका जीवन ये सीख भावी पीढ़ी को देता रहेगा. एक नेक इंसान के रूप में, एक विद्वान अर्थशास्त्री के रूप में और रिफॉर्म्स के प्रति समर्पित लीडर के रूप में उन्हें हमेशा याद किया जाएगा. एक अर्थशास्त्री के रूप में उन्होंने अलग अलग स्तर पर भारत सरकार में अनेक सेवाएं दी. एक चुनौतीपूर्ण समय में उन्होंने रिजर्व बैंक के गवर्नर की भूमिका निभाई. पूर्व प्रधानमंत्री भारत रत्न श्री पीवी नरसिम्हा राव जी की सरकार के वित्त मंत्री रहते हुए उन्होंने वित्तीय संकट से घिरे देश को एक नई अर्थव्यवस्था के मार्ग पर प्रशस्त किया. प्रधानमंत्री के रूप में देश के विकास में और प्रगति में उनके योगदान को हमेशा याद किया जाएगा. जनता के प्रति, देश के विकास के प्रति उनका जो कमिटमेंट था उसे हमेशा बहुत सम्मान से देखा जाएगा. डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी का जीवन उनकी ईमानदारी और सादगी का प्रतिबिंब था. वो विलक्षण सांसद थे उनकी विनम्रता, सौम्यता और उनकी बौद्धिकता उनके संसदीय जीवन की पहचान बनी। मुझे याद है कि इस साल की शुरुआत में जब राज्यसभा में उनका कार्यकाल समाप्त हुआ, तब मैंने कहा था कि सांसद के रूप में डॉक्टर साहब की निष्ठा सभी के लिए प्रेरणा जैसी है। सत्र के समय अहम मौकों पर वो व्हीलचेयर पर बैठकर आते थे, अपना संसदीय दायित्व निभाते थे। दुनिया के प्रतिष्ठित संस्थानों की शिक्षा लेने और सरकार के अनेक शीर्ष पदों पर रहने के बाद भी वो अपनी सामान्य पृष्ठभूमि के मूल्यों को कभी भी नहीं भूले। दलगत राजनीति से ऊपर उठकर उन्होंने हमेशा हर दल के व्यक्ति से संपर्क रखा, सबके लिए सहज उपलब्ध रहे। जब मैं मुख्यमंत्री था तब डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी के साथ राष्ट्रीय और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय अनेक विषयों पर उनसे खुले मन से चर्चाएं होती थी। यहां दिल्ली आने के बाद भी मेरी उनसे समय समय पर बात होती थी, मुलाकात होती थी। मुझे उनसे हुई मुलाकातें, देश को लेकर हुई चर्चाएं हमेशा याद रहेगी। अभी जब उनका जन्मदिन था तब भी मैंने उनसे बात की थी। आज इस कठिन घड़ी में मैं उनके परिवार के प्रति अपनी संवेदनाएं व्यक्त करता हूं। मैं डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी को सभी देशवासियों की तरफ से श्रद्धांजलि अर्पित करता हूं।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi over there speaking about Dr. Manmohan Singh, speaking about his contribution to India, speaking about how he was responsible, often came to Parliament in his later years on a wheelchair. He met leaders across party lines. The Prime Minister interacted with, Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with Dr. Manmohan Singh in Delhi also when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat. And he says that the information, the lessons, the advice, the discussions are something that he will always remember. The images on the right-hand side of your screen are of the Prime Minister paying homage to the late Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, who's passed away at the age of 92 in New Delhi last night, shortly after 8 p.m. to old age-related symptoms. He fell unconscious at his home. He was rushed to the All India Institute, but passed away despite all efforts to save him. Amit Shah, the Home Minister, also paying his respects. JP Nadda, the senior BJP leader, also there. This was a couple of hours back, an hour back or so. Images on the right-hand side of your screen. Let's go across to my colleague Shreya, who's outside the residence of Manmohan Singh. Shreya, you've seen so many leaders come and pay their respects to the late Prime Minister. Could you give us a sense of who's been coming and have there been any statements which have been made?
Well, of course, so far we have seen Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah, Sonia Gandhi and several other leaders who had come and paid their respect, their homage to Dr. Manmohan Singh. Later we will see other cabinet ministers also coming, although the final, in terms of performing the final rites, that will take place tomorrow because one of the daughters of Dr. Manmohan Singh will be arriving in India the next day, and that is when the final rites will be performed with full state honors. Right now, as you can see, the Delhi skies continue to weep as the nation bids farewell to the economist with a visionary, the transformation leader, the one who brought about economic liberalization in the national capital at a time when India was going through a major fiscal deficit. Here you can see right outside his residence where he lived almost 10 years. There is this strong security arrangements that have been put in place. You can see men in uniform standing at guarding the residence as senior leaders, VIPs arriving here, paying homage to Dr. Manmohan Singh, and he is definitely a man who has received condolences and respect from people across party lines because of the kind of
in just
work
a
that
few
he has
moments
done
from
as
now. We're just going to go
finance
back
minister
and just take a look at images from the past. Let's just talk a little bit about Dr. Manmohan Singh. He never actively campaigned for political office. He was, focused more on the business of governance. Let's get a few more details on him. More focused on governance and political maneuvering. His rise to the post of Prime Minister in 2004 was largely because of Sonia Gandhi's decision not to take the post herself, leading to his selection by the Congress party. He was known for his reserved and academic demeanor rather than the aggressive style of leadership and of public statements made by so many politicians across party lines. He was often seen as being more comfortable in policy discussions than in political rallies or public confrontations. He maintained a distance from the internal politics of the Congress. His focus was more on administration, less on the power struggles within the party, which sometimes led to perceptions of being out of touch with the political gamesmanship which has defined Indian politics, always has. He was mild-mannered, soft-spoken, an economist. Very sadly, as I mentioned, fell unconscious last night. He was rushed to the All India Institute and declared dead at 9:51. Well, joining us now, somebody who's tracked Dr. Manmohan Singh for a very long period of time. I'm joined by Aarti Jairat. Aarti, thanks very much for being with us. You would have so many memories of Dr. Manmohan Singh. Let's talk about some of your own memories of the man. What strikes you most at this hour?
Well, I think a lot has been said already about his contributions to the nation, particularly in terms of opening up the economy and, setting us on the path to where we've reached today, which is, the world's fifth largest economy. And also for, ending India's nuclear winter with the signing of that civil nuclear deal with the United States, which got us a lot of benefits in terms of, transfer of technology and, so on and so forth. So all that is there. But if we just talk about him as a person, he was so soft-spoken, so gentle, so humble. I mean, Vishnu, I used to meet him in Parliament quite often, when he was finance minister, when he was leader of opposition in the Rajya Sabha. And, a man who is not just held so many high positions, but also much older than me, would always call me Aarti Ji. It was such it was something that really touched you, that he was so polite, so humble, that, he would call somebody like me Aarti Ji. And, these are little things that stick in your mind about him. It's really a pity that, I think his first term as prime minister was very good because, the government, the UPA 1, introduced a lot of path-breaking schemes like Manrega, which is, still there and has really helped the poor through many crises, including the one through COVID, the right to information, the right to education, and, so on. And of course, he continued on the path of reforms, continuing the privatization of airports and the open skies policy. And of course, the big breakthrough was the Indo-US civil nuclear deal, which was signed, I think soon after he became prime minister. But, it is unfortunate that a man, whose integrity really shone through, who was known for his honesty, that his second term was so clouded by corruption scandals, none of his own doing, unfortunately, but that's the way politics operates in India. And, he was not a prime minister who was fully in control because, the politics of the UPA were being handled by Sonia Gandhi, whereas he was supposed to handle the government. And, unfortunately, the, corruption scandals did taint his second tenure. And when he stepped down finally as prime minister at his last press conference, he said, I hope that history will remember me kindly. And, I think history is remembering him kindly and will remember him kindly because, firstly, a lot of the corruption scandals that, took place at that time, particularly that big one in the telecom scam, that 1,78,000 crore, a figure which none of us could even fathom, turned out to be completely false. So, we're now beginning to realize, how much he actually contributed. We're forgetting about the bad parts, but we're remembering all the good parts, and his contribution to the country has been tremendous. But,
But Aarti, let me just ask you a question on what you mentioned. If you look at the corruption cases, some would suggest it began the demise of the Congress as we knew it prior to that. 2G, Commonwealth, coal, wasn't there food for work and Natwar Singh and allegations at that stage as well? How did Manmohan Singh deal with all of this? Because all of this disrupted whatever vision of the India growth story that he had, which he was working on.
Absolutely. Disrupted him immensely. He dealt with it by remaining silent, which is why he became known as Manmohan Singh rather than Manmohan Singh. It's a pun on his word for, on his name, for the silence that he maintained through all those scandals. And, in his second term, I think his first term, he did quite a lot. The government did do quite a lot. He and Sonia Gandhi were working in sync. They had the left.
Aarti, just half a second. The motorcade that we just saw on our screens was of the President of India, Draupadi Murmu, who had visited the home of Dr. Manmohan Singh. She's paid her respects, the President, just a few moments back. These images are from earlier on the day when the Prime Minister was there as well. Sorry, Aarti, go ahead with what you're saying.
I was saying his first term, I think he and Sonia Gandhi worked together very well, and although the left was there and, there were many ideological differences with the left, but somehow the three of them came together and did take forward the process of reforms. It's in the second term that things got scuppered. You remember he went to Sharm el-Sheikh where I think he signed that agreement with Musharraf, for some kind of a peace deal between India and Pakistan and an end to, terrorism and, sort of resuming the dialogue, the broken dialogue. And unfortunately, that was, the Congress party itself did not accept that Sharm el-Sheikh agreement. The BJP, of course, went to town criticizing him for that.
Right.
And I think, his whole slowdown and the policy paralysis that ultimately overtook his government began with that Sharm el-Sheikh agreement when he had to walk back on it.
Yes.
And, it just got worse and worse, and then, of course...
All right, Aarti, we've got images of Rahul Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, the Gandhi family, as it were, paying their respects at the residence of Dr. Manmohan Singh. Dr. Manmohan Singh's mortal remains will remain at his home till tomorrow. His daughter, on her way back from, I believe, the United States presently, arrives late tonight, and he will be cremated tomorrow. Today is the day when all of India honors, Mallikarjun Kharge there on your screen, all of India and the world, in a sense, honors the late Prime Minister. He's been known and reputed across the world. He had a huge link with several political leaders across political lines. And let's just go back to Aarti to talk us through these critical images of the Gandhis at the residence of, and Mallikarjun Kharge as well, at the residence of Dr. Manmohan Singh. For Rahul Gandhi, who we just see on our screens right now, he was a mentor. Could you tell us a little bit about that association?
So So that's a very interesting relationship because, Manmohan Singh kept saying that he wanted Rahul Gandhi to join his government, so that he could gain experience in administration and so on. And Rahul consistently refused. And then, of course, came that, that famous or infamous incident where Rahul Gandhi tore an ordinance at an open press conference and said that, he would dump it, an ordinance that the Manmohan Singh government had introduced to give, protection to people, to politicians with corruption charges against them. At that point of time, I mean, Manmohan Singh must have been deeply offended and deeply hurt because it was public humiliation. But he didn't say anything. That was, as I said, that was the way he dealt with all these political crises that kept erupting through his tenure. He didn't say anything. And later he was asked that why didn't he resign or say something at that time? And he said that, Rahul Gandhi came to him after the press conference and apologized because I think Rahul realized that he had crossed a red line there. And, Rahul Gandhi came to him and apologized. And so Manmohan Singh did not want to rock the boat, as it were, by, making it into an issue. So that, and I think through it all, whatever the tensions were around him, I think his relationship with Sonia Gandhi remained an important factor in keeping that government going. And I think Sonia Gandhi did have tremendous respect for him, which is why she chose him. Those of us who had been tracking, politics at that time and who knew, what was happening, were not surprised by Sonia Gandhi's choice of Manmohan Singh because she had been close to him. She'd used him, on many occasions, even as a kind of political negotiator with Sharad Pawar, for instance, because of the fact that, Manmohan Singh was such a amicable man.
Aarti, just be with me for a moment. Let me quickly go across to Professor Sandeep Shastri. Professor Shastri, I think the bottom line for a generation of Indians who wouldn't really know when or how India was in the 80s and prior to that, I think the story is really linked, would you agree, with Dr. Manmohan Singh? Had it not been for Dr. Manmohan Singh's contribution, we would be living in a very different kind of India, right?
Vishnu, I was starting my political career, my academic career, when Manmohan Singh ji was at the highest of positions, was about to become the finance minister. And we saw the type of transformation he brought about. And then in 2004, when he became the prime minister of the country, all of us felt so proud that somebody with the type of academic background he had became the prime minister. I was, in fact, in 1997, privileged to be the host when he came to my university for the convocation. I was with him from the time he landed in Bangalore till the time he took off. And the simplicity of the person, the words which he used were carefully chosen. He was such a great listener. He heard me out in terms of the research work I was doing and added his bits of information and advice on that, which was so appropriate. Now,
all right, Dr. Shastri,
when he became prime minister, a lot of us were so proud of the fact that an academician has risen to that position. And
the images that you saw over there were of the tricolour being placed on the casket, bearing the mortal remains of the late Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh. You can see our national flag being placed over there. There is a 7-day period of mourning in honour of the late Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, which has been announced by the government. The flag is being flown at half-mast. Let's continue getting reporters in as well. My colleague Vasudha joins us now for more on this from the Congress office. Vasudha, give us a sense of what exactly happens now. When will the cremation take place? I believe the daughter of Dr. Manmohan Singh is yet to return. Is that right?
That's right, Vishnu. We are waiting. What we've been told is that Dr. Manmohan Singh's body will be at his residence only. In fact, the family is waiting for one of the daughters to arrive in India, which is going to happen tonight, is what we've been told. And the last rites will take place tomorrow. I am at the Congress office and not much of an activity here, but of course, there's a lot of security arrangements that have been put in place. Congress workers have started coming in right now. It's also raining very badly. There's also a lot of cold, which is also why I think, and a lot of leaders I spoke to, some of them who are still in Belagavi, they are waiting for their, planes to take off. The Gandhi family has already sort of like arrived, and we saw that Sonia Gandhi also reached, the residence of Manmohan Singh, and Priyanka Gandhi was amongst the first to reach AIIMS yesterday, and also Devendra Yadav, who's the Delhi Congress president, reached about 2 hours ago, and he's been also tasked with making sure that the arrangements are in place tomorrow. Today, the Prime Minister was supposed to, take part in this nationwide Swamitva program where he was supposed to distribute a lot of property cards, but then that has been cancelled in the honor of Dr. Manmohan Singh. Prime Minister has called him, one of the most distinguished leaders of the country. He has in fact praised his humble beginnings and also the fact that his work touched the lives of several Indians in an inference to the mantra that he always used, that development always has to have a human face to it. So clearly tomorrow is when the Congress party office will get to see, the body and the mortal remains of Dr. Manmohan Singh, and I think the final journey will begin tomorrow.
Dr. Sandeep Shastri, go ahead, sir, with what you were saying.
Now, I was mentioning that Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's first term was a very glorious time. Many of us who saw that 5 years in office saw how a coalition is to be managed. Let's remember that when the 2009 election happened and the Congress party was releasing its manifesto, somebody asked Sonia Gandhi, who is the prime ministerial face of the Congress. She turned the Congress manifesto to Manmohan Singh's photograph and said, he is the face of the prime ministerial face of the Congress party. And therefore, when the UPA came back to power, people referred to Singh as king. But his second term was a term of contradictions where the coalition partners and other factors led to certain very negative publicity for the government and certain actions happening which were not in the best interest of the government. Manmohan Singh maintained his silence and did not respond to a lot of issues. And that, I think, in retrospect today, was a part of his style, was a part of his approach, where he believed that he would deal with issues over which he was able to have some control, but issues which he had little control over, he would prefer to maintain a silence on that. It was rightly said that he was like the one who drank the poison in order to save the reputation and the credibility of the government. Aarti, a little while ago, referred to the then vice president of the party tearing the ordinance. And that was, I think, one of the most difficult moments in Dr. Singh's tenure as the prime minister. He preferred again to remain silent, and as Aarti mentioned, later on, the then vice president of the party is believed to have apologized to the prime minister for what happened and realized he had overstepped. I remember at the end of his tenure, when there were 2 days left for him as prime minister, I had written an open letter where I complimented the good work he had done, but had only pleaded that if he...
All right, Dr. Shastri, just hold your thoughts for a moment. We've got a cousin of Dr. Manmohan Singh speaking. Let's listen.
जब भी आते थे बहुत प्यार से मिलते थे. हाँ, ईमानदारी तो उनका फर्स्ट ये था. जैसे हमसे भी ये लोग कहीं कहते थे कि ये काम हमारा उनसे कह के करवा दो, तो वो कहते थे कि आई एम द लास्ट मैन. मैं ये गलत काम को तो वो बिल्कुल नहीं छूते ही नहीं थे. सही काम के लिए वो किसी का रोकते नहीं थे, गलत काम नहीं करते थे, चाहे कुछ हो जाए.
आपने जैसे बताया जीवन बड़ा संघर्ष में रहा, पढ़ाई के पैसे वैसे नहीं होते.
हाँ, तो टाइटनेस में उन्होंने जिंदगी गुजारी. कुछ हमारे फादर सपोर्ट करते थे, कुछ हमारे चाचा जी कर देते थे. ऐसे ही उनका जीवन बड़ा संघर्ष में रहा. और जब वो चंडीगढ़ में लेक्चरार थे तो वो 600 रुपये तनख्वाह पे थे और थ्रू आउट हिज कैरियर ही स्टूड फर्स्ट क्लास फर्स्ट इन एजुकेशन.
आप लोग कुछ कहते थे जब लोग आते थे, आपकी बात क्या हुई थी आप लोग?
हमारी तो वो पढ़ाई के बारे में बच्चों को भी सबको ये कहते थे पढ़ाई पे जोर दो, पढ़ाई पहले.
आपकी आखिरी मुलाकात कब हुई थी?
आखिरी मुलाकात अभी यही इन्हीं के यहाँ हुई थी. क्या नाम नहीं सब हमारी वो मेरी पोती की शादी हुई थी दिल्ली में, तब वो आए थे, सारा दिन वहाँ रहे थे.
फिर क्या बातें हुई थी?
भाई शादी उन्होंने फुल अटेंड करी थी. संडे वाला दिन था गुरुद्वारा में, तो सारी शादी उन्होंने अटेंड करी, पूरे 6-7 घंटे वहीं रहे. सुबह की शादी थी संडे की गुरुद्वारा रकाबगंज में, तो सारी शादी में आशीर्वाद सबको दिया, सबको मिले. अब टाइम तो उनके पास भी कम रहता था ना.
आज जिस तरीके से सब पूरा देश याद कर रहा है, आप किस तरीके से याद करते हैं?
हम
All right, we'll take a short break, return to more memories, more stories, and a look at the life and times of the former Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
The former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh has died at 92. A 7-day national mourning has been announced for the late Prime Minister, a state funeral for late Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. Leaders pay their last respects to the late Prime Minister at his Delhi residence. The Prime Minister, the Home Minister, and others visit the former Prime Minister's residence. Leaders across party lines mourn Dr. Manmohan Singh's passing. Dr. Manmohan Singh was a global statesman. World leaders paid tribute to the late Prime Minister. The Indian cricket team's ode to Manmohan Singh. India's test players in Melbourne wear a black armband in mark of their remembrance of the death of the late Prime Minister.
Mahakumbh, a festival of faith, the world's biggest spiritual festival, the divine dip at the spiritual Sangam, a sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
NDTV shines with 38 prestigious wins at the News Television Awards 2024. Powerful journalism to cutting-edge digital innovation, production excellence to regional leadership. NDTV sets the benchmark. 38 awards, each a testament to your trust in NDTV. NDTV stands for trust.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
This week on India Ascends.
Will Myanmar's junta chiefs see the same fate as Syria's Bashar al-Assad? Beijing in limbo as Xi's purge extends to his own men. How Trudeau's own misgivings are likely to become his end. and broken souls in a broken system, why young Wall Street bankers are getting by using ADHD pills.
All this and more only on India Sense with me, Gauri Dwivedi, at these timings on the NDTV network.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Mahakumbh, a festival of faith. The world's biggest spiritual festival. The divine dip at the spiritual Sangam. A sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
A very warm welcome to the first edition of the NDTV Emerging Business Conclave 2024.
MSME विभाग एक महत्वपूर्ण विभाग है.
We have to think about what is brand India. India will always stand for democracy. We will always be one of the largest investors in the world.
It is also very, very important that these MSMEs grow.
We are seeing that women are coming up in many other sectors apart from the traditional sectors.
2024, the year that was, when India welcomed Ram. When India decided,
The former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh passed away last night at the age of 92. He was admitted at the Emergency Department of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. He died of old age-related complications. Several leaders from across political lines, starting from the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, the President of India as well, they've all paid respects at his residence. The flag has been placed on the casket bearing his mortal remains. He will be cremated tomorrow. One of his daughters yet to return to India. Manmohan Singh served as the finance minister in P.V. Narasimha Rao's government between 91 and 96, which was seen as an era of India's economic liberalization or transformation. As Prime Minister, he led the signing of the US-India Civil Nuclear Agreement, ending India's nuclear isolation. He introduced the Right to Information Act, promoting transparency in governance. His administration also enacted Manrega, aiming to provide employment to lakhs of households in the country. Let's go across to Shreya Ghosh, who joins us from outside the residence of Dr. Manmohan Singh. Shreya, throughout the morning, we've seen so many leaders come in and go. Before the cremation takes place, the family is waiting for the arrival of Dr. Manmohan Singh's daughter. Is that right?
Absolutely, Vishnu. We have seen that the Gandhi family has arrived and has paid their homage. We also saw Home Minister Amit Shah, PM Narendra Modi arriving and paying their respects to Dr. Manmohan Singh, who has, of course, left an incredible economic and political legacy behind. In his 10-year-long prime ministership tenure, we know the highlight has been how he sort of handled the entire India-US nuclear deal, and also the way he brought about the entire economic liberalization in India when India was going through a major fiscal deficit. These are the two things that really defines his political career in some way. Although at the end of his career he faced major criticisms, although he always highlighted the democratic spirit, You know, he's one of the last prime ministers who actually held a press conference, fielded almost 60 questions in his last ever press conference, and that goes on to show that he always was open to feedback, open to criticism, and he of course he was heavily criticized. He was almost called the silent prime minister, the puppet prime minister, but we cannot overlook the fact that he has been a magnanimous politician. He has paved his own path, coming from a small village in undivided Punjab. You know, he went to Punjab University. From there he went to Cambridge. He is one of the most qualified head of government in the world, in fact, and for these very reasons, of course, we see political leaders across party lines coming and showing their respect, paying their homage here at his residence in AIIMS Delhi. We can see it continues to rain, but people are coming here and they are spending time with former Prime Minister's wife and 2 children, 2 daughters, and of course another daughter is supposed to arrive tomorrow or today late night, and that is why the cremation has been postponed to tomorrow. And of course we also know the national mourning period has been declared by the government for the next 7 days. Nationwide, people have cancelled, the government have cancelled all sorts of programs because they have declared the national mourning period, and of course the entire nation is mourning the loss, profound loss of the architect of modern India, Dr. Manmohan Singh.
Well, let's just go across to NDTV's Sunil Prabhu, who joins us also in just a few moments from now. In case you've just tuned in, the country is mourning the passing of Dr. Manmohan Singh at 92. He was India's Prime Minister from 2004 to 2014. He led India's economic liberalization, most notably as Finance Minister in 1991. That was the time when India was in a payment crisis. We had foreign exchange worth approximately 2 weeks of imports. He turned around the economy completely, opened up the door, unshackled the process of liberalization, allowed the privatization of government ventures, deregulated different sectors. He led the signing subsequently of the US-India Civil Nuclear Agreement, ending India's nuclear isolation. There were several other important policies which were passed. The Right to Information Act was one of them, but it was also a difficult period. He was a reluctant prime minister. There were serious allegations of corruption, the 2G, the Commonwealth case, the coal scam. These were all issues which impacted him or certainly the Congress party in a very big way. These were some of the factors which enabled his political opponents, the BJP, to gain the momentum that they needed to come to power. But today there's great respect for Manmohan Singh from his political rivals, from the Prime Minister, from the Home Minister, and several others, because of the impact which Manmohan Singh as a man made and the impression that he made on so many others. Profound respect for his economic vision. That's something which successive governments in India have carried forward. The fact that we are now the fastest growing economy among countries of our size is something which has taken place largely because of that process of economic opening up, which he started out in the early to mid 90s and then carried on when he was Prime Minister. He was a reluctant Prime Minister. There was always a sense that India was being governed by remote control, that all the key political decisions were being taken by Sonia Gandhi, who you see on the right-hand side of your screen. But there were issues where Manmohan Singh really put his foot down, and he'd be known for his governance and leading the implementation of policy to transform India. We'll take a short break, more coming up.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola Edge 50 Pro, world's first AI-powered pro-grade camera.
New day, new show, a new experience. Start your day with the news, not views. We bring you stories that matter and impact your lives. News that informs and keeps you ahead.
From Maximum City, Mumbai,
To the seat of governance, Delhi, NDTV brings to you the best breakfast show. The breakfast show only on NDTV 24/7 every morning at 8 a.m.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the top-most news platform in the country. Number one in both online and offline reach in India. Beating all its competition, NDTV stands for trust.
We are able to maintain the democratic fabric and the democratic system.
I want to do something that can make a difference.
लगातार जनता की आवाज को सरकार तक पहुंचाने का काम मैं करता हूं.
I was a student up until very recently. I really want to work and do something for my people because they have given me this opportunity. They have elected me.
सोचा नहीं था कि राज्यसभा सांसद बनूंगी.
Mahakumbh, a festival of faith, the world's biggest spiritual festival, the divine dip at the spiritual Sangam, a sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
NDTV shines with 38 prestigious wins at the News Television Awards 2024. Powerful journalism to cutting-edge digital innovation, production excellence to regional leadership. NDTV sets the benchmark. 38 awards, each a testament to your trust in NDTV. NDTV stands for trust.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
This week on India.
Well, India is mourning the passing of Dr. Manmohan Singh at the age of 92. He served as India's Prime Minister from 2004 to 2014. My colleague Sunil Prabhu has tracked Dr. Manmohan Singh perhaps more closely than any other journalist, I would argue, in India. We'll talk about his politics later on. Tell us what your most abiding memory of the man is, Sunil.
Well, Vishnu, it's deeply personal. It's something that, I had the opportunity of meeting Dr. Manmohan Singh a number of times, starting from my journalistic career in '95. In fact, he was even a referee for me at one stage, and then carried on that relationship for many decades. If you recall, even the last interviews would be to us outside. As soon as the budget speech would speak, he would be one of the first to speak to us and to NDTV and talk about what. And he used to make those 1 minute or 2 minutes very crisp, clear criticisms, or what you call his expert opinion. on the budget, and even people like the late Arun Jaitley would come back to me and say that really respect how you were able to get him and his critique of his budget. So it's been a long relationship, deeply personal, but the man that I knew, extremely scholarly, a reluctant politician, but once he became one, was extremely good at his job, knew, as he said, I have to run a coalition, not only in terms of a coalition government, but within the Congress party, because as you are well aware, there were many claimants for the top post. It was Mrs. Gandhi's personal choice to have Dr. Manmohan Singh as the Prime Minister. There were many other claimants at that time, not only Pranab Mukherjee, Arjun Singh, and that list carries on. The rest, as Dr. Manmohan Singh wanted it to be, secrets under his, to go with him, definitely, and I used to promptly ask him a number of times to write, and including his former national security advisors and principal private secretaries and private secretaries would urge him, but he said these are things which are deeply personal, and I don't want, India to, these should go down with me.
Sure.
So he was extremely clear that there was a certain relationship that he had, but extremely a good, self-effacing, and, not only being soft-spoken, but a human being of a different kind. And if you speak to any of his close aides, they would always say, Vishnu, he would ask, how would you go home? And he would be always worried about them, not about him. And that scholar that in him, he would always love to read. If you give him a book or a paper, he would just get engrossed reading those papers way into the early hours of the morning.
You know, Sunil, I was on the very last flight that he flew as Prime Minister. After that, journalists were thrown off the Prime Minister's plane. And this was to Myanmar. And so that would have been the very last time that he held a press conference on board Air India One. Then, of course, it's now Indian Air Force One. And he took questions very politely, sometimes looking up with concern at some of the questions coming his way, saying, where did that come from? But polite to the T and very deliberate in his answers, not worried about being asked anything. I think that was one of his key attributes. There was a lot of criticism that went his way, his government's way, whether it is 2G, the coal scam, food for work, what have you. But he was always willing to take questions, right? I think that was his hallmark.
That's the greatness of him. I mean, he held press conferences umpteen amount of times, open press conferences where he would be, national press conference where he would take. And when you talk about Air India One, I also happened to be there when, he...
शब्द आज सार्थक सिद्ध हो रहे हैं। मेरी भावपूर्ण श्रद्धांजलि मैं आज उनको देने के लिए आया था। मेरे व्यक्तिगत बहुत ऐसे क्षण हैं जो उनके साथ में मेरी लिए तमाम जिंदगी के लिए वो एक धरोहर के रूप में रहेंगे। जब तक मेरे रहूंगा तब तक मैं उनको संजो के रखूंगा और ऐसे महान व्यक्ति के सामने हमेशा अपना और ये देश का हर नागरिक बहुत प्यार से श्रद्धा से सर झुकाएगा।
All right, Raj Babbar speaking over there. Sunil, we just went across to Raj Babbar for a moment. You were talking about Air India One. Go ahead with that story.
Well, that's the press conference when he was returning from after the G20 St. Petersburg, where he virtually announced his retirement. Officially, of course, he had said it on the 3rd of Jan, but in September, the first week of September, he had made it clear that he was giving way to Rahul Gandhi, and very, very tough questions in those days. That was Dr. Manmohan Singh for you. He never shied away. Would always take the most difficult questions. I think during the crisis, when, in 2010, he would stop by. I was probably one of the few privileged journalists who he would stop by with a smile, answer those questions in Parliament, much to the detriment of my fellow colleagues and people who would now, of course, it's a different reality covering the Prime Minister's office, but that was a golden period in journalism, if I may be permitted to say so. Dr. Manmohan Singh allowed and had the ability to take some of the toughest questions with a smile, self-effacing, very clear in his thought process, be it not only as the architect of economic reforms or what he would call India's, enlightened interest in the international sphere, in building relationships, be it with the United States or the I-5 countries, be it with Russia or with our neighborhood. Something that he would always say he would have wanted very closely to have a good relationship with the neighborhood, and that's something that he was able to do in the fact that immediately after Prime Minister Modi was elected to power, we had most of those SAARC nations coming for the swearing in of for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. That was the kind of relationship India had built at that stage.
But Suri, let me ask you
India
this.
Today, we have a
I think for a younger audience who weren't around when Dr. Manmohan Singh was Prime Minister or even before that, I would suggest the lasting impression of Manmohan Singh is that he has transformed India fundamentally, because the India you and I grew up in the 70s and the 80s, the ambassador car was seen as an ultimate symbol of luxury. The Maruti came on much earlier. Some had a Premier Padmini. We were lucky to get a ride on that. When one traveled abroad, that foreign exchange amount on your passport would be written $50 or something, and you could hardly carry anything. People used to go broke and without money when they traveled abroad. And that was the India that we lived in. Much more pleasant times, some would suggest. But it was an impoverished India, a socialist India, heavily institutionalized and rigidly run. That India decisively went when he became Prime Minister. So the India we have now, and successive governments have followed in his economic footsteps, is very different. Would you agree?
Very, very interesting that you bring the vehicles, Vishnu, and a small anecdote before I answer your larger question. He had a Maruti, Dr. Manmohan Singh. I don't know whether it still exists. He used to use it as finance minister whenever he would resign, and he would then give away the official car and use his Maruti 800. I had the privilege of driving with him when he would come to the Congress office from his residence in Safdarjung Lane at that time in the late 90s. So that was Dr. Manmohan Singh for you in terms of vehicles. He also believed, when to answer your larger question, why did economic reforms, was it the best way out? And he felt that the trickle-down effect was the only way that the poorest of the poor or the great Indian middle class, which emerged thanks to economic reforms today, was possible only because of liberalizing India's economy. It was not, as he says, not his task alone. He had Prime Minister Narasimha Rao at that time. It was extremely important, and the way he did go about that entire process. But definitely, as he said to us, to NDTV and to me, history, I hope, will be kinder to me. I think today, as the rain gods continue to rain and welcome him, I think history has been kinder to him.
No, absolutely, Sunil. And I see you getting a bit emotional over there as well. I understand that and how difficult it has been, covering a beat for so long, and Dr. Manmohan Singh. Somebody who worked very, very closely with him was P. Chidambaram. P. Chidambaram was Commerce Minister when Manmohan Singh was Finance Minister, and was part of that process of carrying forward the economic vision that Dr. Manmohan Singh had. He spoke to us on the passing of Dr. Manmohan Singh. Let's listen in.
It's a very deeply emotional moment for me. I know he was ill, and I know that he was not active, but I thought he will live for a few more years at least. As I am able to recall the life and work of Dr. Manmohan Singh and the period from 1991 till 2014 will be a golden chapter in the history of India. I worked closely with him for many years. I have not met a person more humble and self-effacing than Dr. Singh. He wore his scholarship lightly and never claimed the credit for any of his historic achievements. In fact, the story of India turned after Dr. Manmohan Singh became finance minister. And the present middle class of India was virtually the creation of his policies as finance minister and prime minister. I can recount countless incidents. We had genuine empathy for the poor. And while his policies were liberal and progressive, he never forgot the poor.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Mahakumbh, a festival of faith. The world's biggest spiritual festival. The divine dip at the spiritual Sangam. A sacred confluence of faith, culture and heritage. NDTV's mega coverage of the Mega Fest. NDTV at Mahakumbh 2025.
A very warm welcome to the first edition of the NDTV Emerging Business Conclave 2024.
MSME विभाग एक महत्वपूर्ण विभाग है.
We have to think about what is brand India. India will always stand for democracy. We will always be one of the largest investors in the world.
It is also very, very important that these MSMEs grow.
We are seeing that women are coming up in many other sectors apart from the traditional sectors.
2024, the year that was, when India welcomed Ram. When India decided,
मैं नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी,
when Jammu and Kashmir turned a historic leaf.
As Chief Minister for the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir.
When India mourned. When India celebrated. When India protested. When India felt proud. When India scaled new heights. NDTV brought it all to you. Your trusted news destination. Yesterday, today and tomorrow.
New day, new show, a new experience. Start your day with the news, not views. We bring you stories that matter and impact your lives. News that informs and keeps you ahead.
From Maximum City, Mumbai,
to the seat of governance, Delhi, NDTV brings to you the best breakfast show. The breakfast show only on NDTV 24/7 every morning at 8 a.m.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the top most news platform in the country. Number 1 in both online and offline reach in India. Beating all its competition, NDTV stands for trust.
We are able to maintain the democratic fabric and the democratic system.
I want to do something that can make a difference.
लगातार जनता की आवाज को सरकार तक पहुंचाने का काम मैं करता हूं.
I was a student up until very recently. I really want to work and do something for my people because they have given me this opportunity. They have elected me.
सोचा नहीं था कि राज्यसभा सांसद बनूंगी.
Mahakumbh, a festival of faith. The world's
Right, late Dr. Manmohan Singh has passed away at the age of 92. We are, of course, showing you all the tributes which are pouring in for the former Prime Minister. Leaders also visiting his residence here in the national capital to pay their last respects. All that and more we'll be tracking on this bulletin. But first up, let's take a look at the top headlines. Former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh passes away at the age of 92. He was admitted in the emergency department of AIIMS last night. 7 days national mourning for late Manmohan Singh. Last rites tomorrow near Rajghat. Tributes pour in for late former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. Leaders visit his residence to pay their last respects. Prime Minister Modi pays tribute to late Dr. Manmohan Singh, says his contribution to India's development is unparalleled. And condolences pour in from international leaders and dignitaries. World leaders remember the great champion and architect of India's economic reforms. Former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh has passed away at the age of 92. He was admitted at the emergency department of AIIMS last night. He served as India's Prime Minister from 2004 to 2014, a period marked by significant economic and social reforms. Manmohan Singh served as the Finance Minister in P.V. Narasimha Rao's government between 1991 to 1996, which is seen largely as an era of India's economic liberalization. The policies framed in that era led to India becoming the world's fastest growing major economy. As the Prime Minister, he led the signing of the US-India Civil Nuclear Agreement, ending India's nuclear isolation, and introduced the Right to Information Act, promoting transparency in governance. His administration also enacted the Manrega, aiming to provide employment to rural households. So that is, of course, the legacy that late Dr. Manmohan Singh has left behind. We're, of course, tracking the story with all our reporters spread across. Let me go across to my colleague Vasudha, who is joining us from the Congress headquarters. Vasudha, we've, of course, seen all the tributes pouring in. There are several leaders who are visiting Manmohan Singh's residence here in the national capital to pay their last respects ever since the news broke. Tell us about at the Congress office where you are. We've, of course, seen Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi also visiting Manmohan Singh's house just a short while back.
Absolutely, Tanima. The famous last words of Manmohan Singh in one of his last interviews, where he said that history will be kinder to him, and he in fact anticipated the kind of outpouring of tributes to him because he leaves behind a rich legacy, not just in the field of policy but also in the realm of governance and also politics. Somebody who was non-confrontational, somebody who was mild-mannered, who led a life of quiet dignity and whose accomplishments outshone that of his defectors and also, his own opponents. And today at the Congress office, there is, of course, a lot of quiet here, also because, Tanima, the timing of his passing away, comes at a very challenging time for the Congress party. The Congress has had successive defeats in both Haryana and in Madhya Pradesh and in Maharashtra. It was expected to start this Ambedkar Yatra, optimizing on the kind of controversy centered around B.R. Ambedkar based on a part of Home Minister Amit Shah's speech. That Yatra has now been put off. There's also the Belagavi CWC meeting of the Congress party that was held to commemorate the first and the only Congress party CWC meet that was headed by Mahatma Gandhi. That also, could not take off. In fact, leaders are, returning to Delhi right now. And his mortal remains will be brought to the Congress office tomorrow, because the family of Dr. Manmohan Singh is waiting for one of his daughters to return to India. She'll be arriving tonight, is what we've been told. And tomorrow is when the final journey, the final rites of former Prime Minister of India for 2 terms, also somebody who held very important positions such as the Governor of RBI, the head of UGC, and also Deputy Chairperson of the Planning Commission, somebody who has advised Prime Ministers not just on economy but also on foreign policy. Dr. Manmohan Singh's his final journey is expected to begin tomorrow, and his mortal remains will also be brought to the Congress office tomorrow. And this location is particularly significant because this marks, this marks an important part of his political career. He has always remained devoted to his to this party, a parliamentarian of 33 years, somebody whose political positioning was very clear, unlike that of several of his contemporaries. But he also knew that there was a responsibility he had, and maybe the sharing of authority was not completely, in his favor, because there were many important decisions that were taken by Sonia Gandhi as the chairperson of the UPA and also the chairperson of the National Advisory Council then. But Manmohan Singh, to his credit, also brought in very important legislations, including RTI, RTE, the Rural Health Mission, the Unique Identification authority, which also led to Aadhaar becoming a national identity of sorts. And more importantly, his signature on the nuclear deal, ending the nuclear isolation and winter for India, and establishing India as a responsible nuclear weapons state, clearly showing that he had autonomy and agency in some matters when it came to governance. But somebody who was mild-mannered, somebody who was a different breed of politicians, somebody whose accomplishments outshone that of his rivals.
Right, Vasudha, as we know that late Manmohan Singh in fact retired from public life in a way earlier this year, but also if you could just talk to us about the fact that several of his policies that he framed, whether it was in terms of the economy as well as in terms of positioning India as a country to be reckoned with in the global stage, those are some of the policies that the Modi government had built on later.
Absolutely, Tanima. His enduring legacy is, of course, of the time when he became the finance minister of the country in 1991, when he did bring in, the very important liberalization reforms. And at that time, it would have seemed like that was the only option, because our forex reserves had hit a historic low. Our fiscal deficit was very high. But steering the country, through the whole IMF bailout was a very challenging task, opening the world to India and also opening India to the world, and more importantly, deregulation of the economy, making ease of business, a prevalent theme there, and also cutting the license Raj to size was not easy, and probably it wasn't appreciated as it should have been, because Congress did not get the right kind of numbers to form the government in 1996. But of course, now he is given credit for bringing India to the world stage, for helping us have that seat on the global high table. Dr. S. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, specifically credited him for improving relations with the West, which also is one of his accomplishments, because he built relations with the United States of America when it was a unipolar world. The Soviet Union had collapsed, and of course this civil nuclear deal, which ended the nuclear isolation and winter for India, establishing India as one of those responsible nuclear weapon state at a time when the left was going to walk out of the alliance, was also something that was symptomatic of Manmohan Singh's political astuteness, because he got the Samajwadi Party on his side then.
Right. Vasudha, stay with us. I'm also joined by my colleague Sunil Prabhu, who is joining us from outside. Manmohan Singh's house here in the national capital. Sunil, as we've seen, a number of leaders have in fact trooped in since the morning to Manmohan Singh's house to pay their condolences to his family, to pay their last respects as well. And across party lines, we've seen the kind of messages that have poured in for him, despite being under a lot of pressure, especially during his second tenure as the Prime Minister. We've seen that everybody has, in a way, recognized the kind of contributions that he made for the country's development and growth.
Absolutely. Not only from within India, but internationally, I think everybody mourns the loss of, our former Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh. He played a critical role, and the person that he was, he never was harsh or critical to anybody. Cutting across party lines. He had, built that bipartisan support, which is sadly missed today. Something that he was able to nurture right through his tenure, through the toughest of times. Not many will ever be able to understand that deep, close, personal, as well as important relationship that Dr. Manmohan Singh had with the UPA chairperson, Sonia Gandhi. Much has been written about it, but as Dr. Manmohan Singh told me very clearly, in many ways, he was always and extremely grateful to her for having chosen her as the Prime Minister, and how he ensured that whatever he did would be for the greater, not only for the country, but for the party for which he remained as a steadfast member right to his death for 33 years. Even in the run-up to 2024, he made a critical remark about what I was talking about, bipartisan support, the public discourse that had been made by the people in power against him, that this is something that is extremely upsetting and deeply worrying. And Dr. Manmohan Singh never minced words about speaking the truth about certain issues, and I think today it's a great tribute for him that cutting across party lines, not only nationally but internationally, countries are paying their homage to who has seen, and this country will take a long time to understand, just like they're now rediscovering Baba Sahib Ambedkar and his being the father of the Constitution. Dr. Manmohan Singh in the years to come will be seen as the father of not only economic reforms, but of India's enlightened national interest in terms of strategic development in the world that we live in.
Right. Right, Sunil, as you were mentioning over there, that Manmohan Singh in a press conference, and he actually spoke to you about that. He answered your question rather about that, the fact that history will remember him more kindly than the media. The questions that the media were, in a way, throwing at him at that point in time, especially as we were saying that while he has, of course, his larger legacies, of course, the economic reforms and the kind of initiatives that he had, in fact, introduced in his first tenure as the Prime Minister. The second tenure, there was, of course, a lot of challenges that the Congress government faced in terms of the corruption cases that were filed at that point in time. But we have, in fact, seen that he was, in a way, epitomizing grace under pressure even at that point in time. And as we were talking about the fact that he had, in fact, said that in retrospect, he will be remembered more kindly, even for that particular period.
Well, I don't know whether I was the one or what. It's a memory. It's a long term, but whatever be as what you say about whatever happened during that period, I think nobody ever personally could lift a finger against Dr. Manmohan Singh about his personal credibility, about how he was incorruptible. He's been, I think, India's finance minister even before you were probably born.
I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Sunil. We'll cut across now to Farooq Abdullah, who's speaking at the moment.
मैं अपनी तरफ से अपनी जमात की तरफ से, अपने ख़ानदान की तरफ से उन्हें श्रद्धांजलि पेश करता हूँ और उम्मीद करता हूँ कि जो काम छोड़ गए हैं बाकी वो हम लोग और दूसरे उसको पूरा कर सकेंगे और इस मुल्क को आगे ले सकें और भाईचारा रखें देशों के साथ।
डॉक्टर साहब, चूंकि जैसे आपने खुद कहा एक इकोनॉमिस्ट थे, क्योंकि ऑक्सफोर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी उनकी फिलॉसफी भी थी और कैम्ब्रिज यूनिवर्सिटी उन्हें जो इकोनॉमी में एक अलग ही एक्सपीरियंस भी थी, जिसकी वजह से हमारे मुल्क की सालमियत एक अलग लेवल पर आ गई थी। एक ऐसा भी
Right, that was of course Farooq Abdullah of the National Conference, but let me also, I believe we are being joined by Selja Kumari of the Congress. Ma'am, thank you so much for speaking to us here on NDTV. Ma'am, your last meeting with Dr. Manmohan Singh, if you could just share us a little bit about that.
Well, I went to see him in his house because we worked together for a long time during Narasimha Rao ji's Prime Ministership when Dr. Manmohan Singh was Finance Minister. And then, of course, when he was Prime Minister and I was a minister in his council. So we worked together for a long time, and I was always struck by his humility and the way he was always willing to help you out in any situation. I remember when I saw him, it was not very well in his house.